Good day, friends. Now this is something a little bit unusual because I'm actually, I know you're expecting the 1973 Gibson Les Paul Custom video right now, and this is it, but this part of the video has been filmed after I've finished the project, and the reason for it is there is a lot of hoo-ha and confusion as to the year of the guitar throughout the whole video, because we were toing and froing and finding out bits of information and what have you, and it took quite a while. It wasn't really that important to me what year it was, but obviously important to the owner. So we eventually did find out after some toing and throwing, bitting and bobbing and going here and there, I did finally ascertain that it was actually it was a 1973 Gibson Les Paul Custom. And there was a little bit of confusion as to when the dot on the eye on the Gibson logo reappeared, and it did reappear in 1972, but not on all models. Because it reappeared in 1972, we got to thinking it might be a 1971 model, and that was a consensus for quite a while. Took quite a bit of doing, but quite a long way through the video, I did find out that it was an actual 1973, and I should have known that because the serial number was a 73 serial number. It couldn't have been any time before. So that really gave it away. So the guitar is a 1973 Gibson Les Paul Custom. Now I'm not going to give anything away in this part. This is just an introduction to the video. It's a very, very interesting video for you to watch. It was a huge project. It took me quite a while. I put a lot of time and effort into it. I really enjoyed doing it. But it was a big job. And at the end of the day, the guitar, when it came in, no one else had touched it. Even the specialist down on the south coast, the Gibson specialist, didn't want to touch it. So I was the only guy or the only person prepared to take it on, and I took it on with full confidence, and the great thing about it is the job is done, and I'll let you see how it came out at the end of the video, and you know it's going to be successful, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this video. But this is it. This is now the prequel or the introduction to the video. Now, like I say, in the next few parts or the next part of the video, you will hear a few we'll be mentioning the year it was made, and we'll be wrong on quite a few accounts. I just wanted to explain that. And something else I do want to mention before we get into the main gist or the main project is, please remember that these videos are not instructional videos. They are not how-to videos. They are videos I make for the client. I only ever make videos for the clients. That's so that they can get an appraisal of the guitar. They can see what I think. I will explain what I think needs to be done, why it needs to be done, and how much it's going to cost. So don't go into the video, watch the video, oh, you've done this wrong, done that wrong, or you didn't show this, you should have zoomed in here and there, because I've been getting a lot of that lately. And like I say, they're not how-to videos or instructional videos. These are just for my reference and for the client. Now, it just happens that people do get a lot out of them and they enjoy watching them. So that is it. So enjoy the video. And I will cut myself out and you will start to see the main project from here. Good day, guys. I have gone widescreen today for a special reason, and I don't know if you remember from a few videos ago, but I said that I had some big jobs coming in, some big projects, and quite special projects, and this is one of them. And the guitar I've got in at the moment is, believe it or not, a 1967 Gibson Les Paul Custom. And I'm just going to go and grab it out of its case. And it's legit, it's real, but it is a big project, this one. I'm just going to lay it down. Now, I don't know if I'm taking this job on yet. I've got the job here. The owner wants me to do it. Well, there's nobody else that would do it. But he's chosen me out of all other people he's seen. We've talked at length. We talked many times on the phone before he came down to the workshop. And I'm going to show you the guitar. And it weighs a ton. And there it is. And it is a genuine 1967 Les Paul Custom. Now, I don't know if it's 1967. Well, we're not entirely sure. But the serial number on the back gives us 3 dates. It gives us 1963, 1967 or 1973. We know it's not a 1963. We also believe it's not a 1973 because his dad owned it before. Now the serial number on the back is 114496, and we believe that that is 1967. So why has this come in? Well, it's come in because you know them really flat frets we used to put on Gibsons at some point. This has them. There's nothing on the frets at all. I'm also just noticing a lot of chips on the fingerboard. This has been refretted before. This has had a refret. And the nibs were removed before as well. Just noticing that now. But there you go. There's nothing on those frets at all. Absolutely no height. If you zoom in and look really closely, you'll see that this binding has had the nibs cut off. So why is it in? Well, I'll show you why it's in. Look down the neck. It's twisted. And it is twisted 3 degrees. It's twisted from the bass side down to the treble side, and it's a big twist. And my job, I have 2 jobs on this, and it is 1, to remove that twist, get the neck straight, and 2, to refret it. Now that in itself, that's going to be £500, a £500 job that is, we're looking at. I doubt I'm able to get it any less than that. I've already just seen here, I know it's been refretted because of all the chips in the fingerboard, and they've not been repaired, they've been left. I'm going to bring this right up to the camera. And look at the fingerboard, all around here there's chips everywhere. So this has already been refretted, and it's been refretted badly. That makes my job more difficult. That's why I've upped the price ever so slightly. So what can I tell you about this guitar? Well, it belongs to a guy called Dave Evans. And Dave is in a band called Seed. That simple. S-E-E-D. I've listened to Seed, and they're not bad, you know. And if you want to go and check them out, and this is a plug here, I told Dave I'd plug his band. You want to go to seedbrothers.net and check them out. Just reading through his notes here. Right, yes, very good. So that is the guitar, 1967 Les Paul Custom. I didn't know it had been refretted before. It is blatantly obvious to me now that it has been refretted because of all the chips in the fingerboard. I'm going to go and ring Dave up in a minute and talk to him about it. It also is going to need, the fingerboard is going to need to be re-radiused. The original nibs have been removed. I can see that now blatantly. So it's been refretted before. It's also going to want a new nut and a setup. Now I've not checked the electrics or anything on it yet. I'm going to do that shortly. Now, how am I going to fix this guitar? Well, you see, Dave is come to the conclusion that if anyone can fix this guitar, I can. And he's probably right there. You know, it's something that I do. How am I going to fix it? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to heavily clamp this end of the guitar, and we're going to twist this back under heat. But what we don't want to do is, 1, we don't want to snap the neck. So for starters, we will have the truss rod loose. It's all about how I clamp it and how I twist it and get it to hold there. And the most important thing, and the most difficult part of the whole process, is going to be getting the heat in there without it damaging anything, or without it damaging the lacquer or whatever. If the worst came to the worst, I will probably have to remove the fingerboard. But the thing is, if I remove the fingerboard, it means removing the binding and everything, and it's going to cost £1,000 to get the guitar all put back together and put right. So I'm going to try and do it without removing anything. I may find it a lot easier to work if I remove the frets. So I think we're going to have to remove the frets regardless. Now that in itself is no mean feat, because they're that flat, they might even be difficult to remove. But what I am initially going to do is, I'm going to remove the frets, I'm going to remove the tuners, I'm going to remove the nut, I'm going to clamp the guitar, it's going to go on my neck vise. Now the thing is, I do have the Vincent neck vise that I built, which is a copy of the Stumac. What I've decided to do is, being as I've got this job on, I'm going to go and buy the Stumac Erlewine guitar neck jig. Now that is going to cost me £550, and I'm buying it so I can do this job. I'm not buying it just to do this job. I'm buying it because I'll be able to use it on other jobs anyway. I've got other necks I've got to straighten, so it will be great for that. But I was specifically going to, I can't do this guitar until I've bought it, so I'm going to go buy it in a minute. Big outlay, £550 for one tool, like I say, but I would not be able to fix this guitar without buying the tool. So that's what I'm going to do. And the good thing about that is it means I can clamp the guitar in really tightly at this end to about here, and then we can work on, because we're going to have to twist the neck probably from about this area to this area. I've not worked out exactly how I'm going to twist it yet. There are a couple of ways I am thinking of that I can do. I've talked to my friend Danny Lint down at leicestershireluthier.co.uk. Danny Lint took over from my good friend Nigel Roberts, who's better known as a Leicestershire luthier. Nigel Roberts, what he doesn't know about guitar teching and luthiery, you can write on the end of a pen and still have room for the Lord's Prayer. So I'm going to go down and see those guys, hopefully this weekend. I'm good friends with Danny anyway. I'm going to talk to Danny because Danny's recently done one similar to this, and he says, I can tell you how I did it, blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to go and see Danny anyway. That is part of the plan. I'll talk to him, I'll talk to Nigel and see what they reckon. I'm pretty certain we're about to do something with this. My objective, what I need to do, right, is I need to get this straight and playable. It doesn't want to be hung on a wall. They want to play this. Dave wants to play this guitar. So he's given me a budget. I said, I doubt I can stick right into your budget because I think we're might going to need some lacquering later on. If we're looking at lacquering later on, we're going to look at another 300 quid on top. So it's probably going to go over budget. I've got a budget of around about 700 quid. I think if we need lacquering, we're going to go nearer 800. But if I can get away with doing this, and I don't mean get away, I'm not going to scrimp, and I'm not going to do an half-arsed job. I'm thinking I could probably do everything I need to do under £500. And that is what I'm going to do and where I'm going to be with this. So going to crack on. I'm not going to do anything else yet. I can't do anything until I've ordered the jig. So I just wanted to get this on film for now. Oh, I also wanted to get on film, this is for Dave's peace of mind, that I took receipt of this guitar, 1967 Gibson Les Paul Custom. It is in receipt of me. I took it, Victor Kroll of Fret Friend in Kirkby and Ashfield in Nottingham. I took receipt of this guitar in the month of, I believe, the month of May, year of our Lord 2020. It is here, it's on film. I've been trusted with this guitar, I've been trusted to fix it, and now Dave has proof, a video proof, that I have the guitar and he's got it on record if it ever goes missing or I decide to steal it and run off. So there you go, so that's it. So Dave Evans' guitar, a lot of work to do on it. Just again, plug his band. The band are called Seed. Go and check them out. The website is seedbrothers.net. You won't regret it. I'll see you in the next part of the video. So I've just been on the phone with Dave, Mr. Dave Evans, and we've had a good talk about his guitar. So what are some things we do know? Since you've been gone, I've had a look at the truss rod. The truss rod works fine. We've had a look at the electrics and the three-way switch. The three-way switch has been changed. I don't know it's been changed. Well, one, there's a spare in the case. Two, Dave said it's probably been changed because there's a spare in the case. And three, look how shoddy the bloody solder work is inside there. So we know that's been changed. The pots and the caps, are they original? I don't know. I have no idea. It looks like they certainly might be. The amount of flux and stuff have gone on there. But these, you can tell it's been stored incorrectly because there's, you know, like the lime scale or whatever on the side there. It's normally caused, well, you know, something like a battery leak. You normally get that. There's some of that on the pots. I've also been told that the pickups have probably gone microphonic. Now, Dave has asked me if we should swap the hardware. Now, I said no. Why would you swap the hardware as long as it's functional? We can certainly clean it up, especially the pointers, for instance. On the dials, they need coming off and they need brushing down, wire brushing. But the rest of it, I think we'll just give it a clean and leave it as it is. You know, because it gives it, it's an age statement, isn't it? It's actually real. This is not relic, this is real. It's a real guitar. So a lot of work to be done on this. I've talked to Dave about the budget. He already knows what I'm going to be charging. He knows I'm going to be up to the higher end of the 400s. He says that's fine. He says whatever it needs, spend it. Now I've talked to him about it being refretted. He says, well, it must have been refretted before his dad had it. I've just found out his dad bought it in 1975. So he's not had it from new. But the fact that it had a refret before 1975 tells me that it is a 1967, not a 73. Because if it was a 73, it would not have needed a refret in 2 years. Another reason I know it's been refretted is the nibs were cut off. Then again, whoever's refretted it has refretted it with the flat fret wire. And it's just not repaired the fingerboard after putting the new frets, after taking the old frets out. Which is really shoddy. It means I've got to do that. And looking at it, there are at least There are about 30 areas I've got to fix, which I'll do the old fill it up with rosewood dust and super glue, and we'll sort it from there. But when I pull these frets, it's going to cause more chipping anyway. So there's a lot more work in this, or a bit more work in this, should I say. I'm quite happy with what I've quoted. It's all about though getting this twist out. If I can't get the twist out, I'll not be doing the refret, because there's no point in doing anything. I'm confident we can get the twist out so long as I can get the heat inside there. Like I say, I'm not going to know exactly what I'm going to do until I talk to Danny from Leicestershire Luthier. So I'm going to do that. It's coming up to mine on the 4th of July for my birthday party barbecue. So I'm going to leave it till then. We are 22nd of June, year of our Lord 2020 today. So I may as well wait till it comes up 4th of July. So that is it. Nothing else to tell you right now. You know as much as I do about this guitar. I'm going to go and order a Stumac neck jig. I've been after buying one for years. It's going to cost me a pretty penny, £550. But end of the day, I think it's worth it. So I'm going to go and get that ordered in a minute. And that's it. So stay tuned. Come back for the next part. It's going to be an interesting one, this one. For working on this guitar properly and getting some good heat into the neck without burning anything, scorching anything or melting anything, we had to come up with a method of getting heat into the wood, holding the heat in there but not burning. So what I've decided to do is we're going to work with my jig. Obviously this is going to be the main component of well, obviously we're going to need this to hold the guitar while we force the neck into a straight position. Now what I'm going to have to do then is build a cage basically over the neck, or not so much a cage but a heat trap, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. And to get heat in there, we're going to go with 2 tubular heaters like so. These are 55 watt. We get some good heat out of these, but it will not melt or burn anything. Like so, you see how they are. And what we're going to do is we're going to build a cage around the guitar, but we need a cage that holds in the heat. So I've gone and bought a big storage box or storage container type affair. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove the lid. We're not going to need the lid at all, and we're going to basically have this upside down over the jig. Now we're going to have to cut a hole in this side here so it goes over the jig like so and sits flat, basically like that. So we're going to build a big heat cage or a heat trap, and that is the best way of doing it. I may even have to cut some height from this. I didn't realise it was this high. So and that's another thing we might be doing, because as long as the neck's up here, I want to leave around a 3 inch gap above the guitar, 2 or 3 inch gap, because I want all the heat to be in there, but I want it to stay at the top. So I may have to remove, I'm going to remove about 4 inches from the base of this, but it's going to work an absolute treat. And because I'm going to leave the heat in there and the guitar clamped for about, I don't know how long, I'm going to go over a period of days. I'm actually going to do this upstairs. It's going to go in our spare room, and we're going to do all of the work up there. I'm just hoping, I've got a coffee table up there, quite a big coffee table. I'm hoping it's big enough to hold the whole of this neck jig. If not, I'll have to put another table up there or do something else, or maybe even do it on the floor. I don't know yet. But that is what I'm going to do. So you're going to basically, you're going to have a heater there and a heater there, one each side, with the guitar strapped in, clamped here. I'm going to be basically using the tuning machine head method to twist against the headstock and pull it round, and we're just going to put more pressure on there, or more tension on there every day. So I need to be removing the heat cage and putting it back in. What I also think I'm going to do is I'm going to actually line this with tin foil. I'm going to get some double-sided sticky tape, line it with tin foil so it keeps good heat in there and it won't melt the plastic. I don't think the plastic's going to melt anyway, but I don't want to risk it. So that is where I'm going to go with that. It's going to take a little bit of building. I'm going to do it over this weekend. It's going to be fun. It's going to be something new. I've actually talked to a good friend about this, a friend of mine, Danny Lynch from LeicesterShireLuthier.co.uk. Good friend of mine, fantastic guitar tech luthier. He takes care of the Leicestershire area, and we meet up now and again. We have meals together, we spend time together, because his wife's Canadian, my wife's Canadian, so we've got that connection. We've got a connection of us both being guitar techs. Danny's probably a little bit more of a luthier than I am, and he's a great guy. And we've talked about this, and he says, yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't work, so you know, what have you got to lose by trying? And that is what we're going to do. If it wasn't a lacquered neck, we could go with, I could get some steam in there, like I normally do, and we could work it that way. But I want to try this. Pretty sure it is going to work. I'm just going to be patient. So that is the idea. I'm going to do some building on this. Once it's built and ready to test, I will set the camera up again and we'll have a look and see how we are making progress. Back soon. Okay guys, as this is such a big project and could be an expensive one if it doesn't go right, or I mean, as much as I'm getting, I mean, I'm not charging a great rate for this. It's not about that money, it's about the value of the guitar. Now, I know it's insured for £5,000. As it stands, to me, it's not really worth anything. Not with this big fat twist in the neck. But what I want to do is, while I'm here, I'm going to manually move the camera and I'm just going to show that this guitar must have had a refret. Now, I know I explained this earlier on the video, but I just want to show these chip out marks. I'm going to grab something just to point to. I'm going to manually carry the camera over to the guitar. This may not be professional, but I just want to show where we are. So bringing round, and I've got the camera in my hand, and I want to point out where the chips are. And there. So we're just going to go down the neck. So this must have been refretted before. Look at the state of those frets. They are awful. But look, you can see the chips. There. So this is all chip out from a previous fret job by the looks of it. Just want to get this all on camera just to show that this is the state of the neck as it's coming to me. So it's had a refret. Not a brilliant one, but kudos to whoever did refret it for trying to bring them up right to the edge of the binding and keep it inside the nibs. The nibs have since, I don't know if they've been worn away, I think they've been removed, but we could have worn away. But here you go, look at these. So I just want to show all of this before I start work on here, because there's a lot of work on this guitar and I don't know if I can get the neck straight, but I'm certainly going to have a go at it. So let me try, keep that a little bit on the guitar and get it back on the tripod, and there you go. And so I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing right now. Bear with me guys, be so patient. So yeah, so right now I'm going to get all strapped in. This is slightly raised off the bench. Once we've got it strapped in, we're going to lower it down to the bench. Let me pull right out with the camera, because this is raised up at the moment. We're going to get this down, we're going to get clamped. Once it's clamped, we're going to start building the cage around it using, I actually went and bought another one. The other one was too big, so I bought another. This is quite a bit smaller. It's a shame we've got a custom because it's got wheels in it. Great piece of kit. £8 from B&Q. And we're going to use this to build a heat trap around it. And it's going to come over the edge at the back there and just inside. Well, no, actually I'm going to cut both ends, aren't I? Because I'm going to slide it right across the whole lot, because we need to get the heat concentrated here. So whereas before I was going to cut one piece out here, I'm going to do both ends. And we're going to slide that over, and we're going to have one heater each side. And one thing I've not checked is, do we have enough room for a heater each side? We actually do, and that's just fortune really, because I hadn't checked that. So I'm going to crack on. I'm going to get this strapped in. Once it's strapped in, I'm going to get it clamped down, and once it's clamped down, I'm going to cut the plastic storage box. And we're going to get it fit over. Once it's fitted over here, there's certain other things I've got to do. Like for instance, I've not removed the nut yet. I need to get that nut off. So I will be removing that at some point. But let me just get this all strapped in. Let me grab my straps. I use industrial strength and industrial grade ratchet straps. Like so. I'm going to need two. Let's just see where we are. It's going to come about. I think that's the way it works. Should know, I've used it plenty of times. I did shorten the straps. It's just a matter of think I have that the wrong way. I totally have that the wrong way. I'm going to put one on loosely because I still need to get some protection from the side of the body. So I'm not just going to whiz it on. There you go. This is how we work this. This is how we do it. What we're going to do is get it strapped in. And I'm going to like a little bit of a wrap. That's nice and loose. And we're going to get a little bit of padding. Just a little bit of padding for the got plenty of these little pads. 5mm thick felt. We're going to need some of this just to protect the guitar. So let's go. Alright, we're looking good there. And there you go. Now I'm going to go a little bit gung-ho with this. I'm going to get it nice and tight. And I think that is pretty good where we are. That's nice and tight. I just need to make sure the neck is central because we're going to put a lot of pressure on this neck. I'm liking where that is right now. Just make sure we're down the centre line. And that is looking pretty good. So that's one. I'm going to have one there. I'm going to put another one here. I'm going to remove these. Let's get these out of the way. Again, these front wheel chats aren't the best. A little rubbish. Bear with. There's some more grip on there. Let's do the job proper. Let's get the actual pins out, not the. Let's just get the front wheel out, is it? So it's had a refret before because the chips weren't repaired, and that is bad chipping. I need to take these out just so I can strap the thing up better. I'm hoping this is going to make an interesting video for you guys. Really quite a lot of boring parts. I'm making a video of this size. Again, big project. If it was no holds barred, just straighten it whichever way you can, even if you have to remove the gloss and we'll respray it, blah blah blah. If you're chucking £1,000 at it, it'd be a lot quicker. Anyway, so you see where we're going with this. Let's get it strapped in really secure. In fact, I don't know why I took them out. I'm going to go here. It's going to be a much better place. It's going to give us much more rigidity. At the end of the day, we're going to be using pressure on this far side. Get a wrap or two just around there, just start a wrap, that's pretty good. More padding. And there. Probably a little bit tight. Just come around. One more out of that. Beautiful. See how we're doing here? That's tight enough. Right, okay, we're tightening off both sides there. Straps out of the way. We're not going to set anything underneath the neck until that's a problem. I should have used a short spike there. That is going to push the neck up. We don't want that. Right, I'm going to have to reset this. Give me 5 minutes. Actually, I can actually do it this way. There you go. I can leave that one off the table. That's perfect. That's absolutely fine there. So that's the way we're going to do it. Let me just move the camera. So you get the idea. I'm now going to clamp I was hoping to not have anything sticking out of the edge of a bench, but we have, but that's okay. I can work around that. So this is going nowhere. The guitar on this is going nowhere. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the neck as straight as I can. It's not imperative we get this straight, but it'll probably just make things work out a little bit better. See where we are. Okay, there's quite a bit of relief in there. Should I alter that truss rod to make it straight? Let me loosen the truss rod and see where we are first. Because by rights, with the truss rod not loose, this guitar neck should be dead straight. Right, the truss rod is loose. Okay, we've got a lot of relief in that neck. I really don't want to be twisting this under pressure, so let's just see where we are. That's one good turn. At least the truss rod is working. Do I want to heat treat and bend this under pressure? Kind of doesn't worry me at the moment. I would prefer to do it not with the truss rod tight, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that as my level. I'll put an extra steel rod under here, by the way. This is an extra one. Normally I have one there, one there, one there, and one at the end. I've added one in there just to give me more. So what I'm going to do is, with that neck now straight, or pretty much straight, just go a little bit more. That neck is straight. I'm going to set this under tension. This is what these jigs are made for. I'm just going to remove. This is why we make these jigs, to replicate a certain neck position. And when I loosen the truss rod, this is going to keep the neck straight. I'm thinking that's going to really help things along. Right, so that neck is now straight. And when I loosen the truss rod, it's going to stay straight because these are all tight. But it'll be straight under pressure, but not under the tension of the truss rod, which is exactly what I want. I want this truss rod loose. I'm going to let the heat work through the wood to hopefully straighten it. If not, we can straighten this neck later. It's not about getting it straight at the moment, it's about getting this twist out. That's all I'm concentrating on right now. I don't even know if I can do it. If anybody can, I can. But right, that's nice and loose, but the neck should be straight because we put steel rods under to hold it in a straight position. Let me just see where we are right there. No, it's not stayed straight, but if I pull down on there, right, I'm going to get a strap on there. because if I pull that strap down, that's going to help with off the job. That is dead straight with that pressed down. So I'm not convinced with the strength at this part of the Gibson. I actually think I'm going to leave it like that. I'm not going to pull it down. I'm going to leave it like that. It's not under tension. The truss rod is loose. I just realised that when I set these tuners to pull the neck around this way to remove the twist, that is going to pull it down anyway. Right, so that's as much as I can do with that right now. I'm going to get the cage built, the heat trap. See how much room we've got for the heat trap. Okay, that works pretty well. I'm going to get this all cut and prepared, and I'm going to come back and we're going to take it from there. Okay, friends, you will notice that I've got a completely different route. My cage and heaters method was never going to work. I was not able to get enough heat into the neck, so I've gone to my old methods. We have the guitar on the Stumac type jig. I've got everything strapped down. I have a strip of steel across the fingerboard with a clothes iron on top. Now, because I don't want to get a stupid amount of heat in there, the iron is only on half power. And I'm just going to keep monitoring that we get some heat into the wood. Whether we can or not, I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll be able to, but it will be going through the frets, then into the wood. It's going to take a while. I need to be careful not to unseat the inlays on this guitar, so I don't want to get a stupid amount of heat in there. So it's going to be a long process. I imagine this is going to take days for me to get the neck straight. You'll notice I have two tuners. We have two guitar strings wound around the tuners, and we're going to just tighten these ever so slightly to get the neck where we want it to be. It may work, it may not. I mean, basically this has to work, because if it doesn't, I don't know what we're going to do. I could remove the steel strip and put the iron straight on there, lose the inlay, or I could replace the inlays later. I am going to have to re-radius the fingerboard, so I'm not too worried, but what I don't want to be doing is I don't want to be melting binding, and I don't really want to be unseating inlays. So I'm going to give this a go, see how much we can get done. It will work, it's just going to take time. A long time, so I've got to be patient with it. But we'll see how this goes. If it's not going to work with the steel bar, I will remove the steel bar and I'll get some heat in directly on the fingerboard. Again, dangerous manoeuvre, but I'm sure it's going to work. There are other ways. We could use a hot air dryer. We could build a like a tube, get a tube around there, get a hot air dryer, blowing air in there. So there's quite a few ways to get some heat in there. We only need gentle heat. It doesn't have to be mental, doesn't have to be manic. But all being well, this will work. I'll be moving my iron up and down the fingerboard, like so. Just need to keep checking that we're not melting anything. We do have a little bit of heat in there, which is good, but it's not melting, so I'm quite pleased with that. So I'll keep doing this, I'll keep coming back and checking. Take it nice and steady, just drop the heat. That's full, that's off full, that's a bit more off full. That's a pretty good enough heat there. So all being well, this is going to work. I don't see no reason why it wouldn't. I just may have to be a little bit more patient with this. But while this is happening, I'm going to work on some other guitars, on other projects. And I'll come back and give you an update on this a little bit later. Just want to show in a little bit more detail the mechanism we use, or the mechanism I use for getting the neck to twist in the position I want it to go in. And this is the way I do it. And I have two screws in the side of my neck jig holding a number 6 string, probably a 46 or a 52 or whatever, any old strings I've got knocking about. And I cover the edge of the headstock with some tape. Then I have two metal bits of metal bent over 90 degrees just to put on top of the tape, just so we don't gouge into the side of the headstock with the string. And it's a matter of just getting the string on the tuning peg, making sure the tuning pegs are screwed in right underneath, and we just alter the machine heads to actually twist the neck the way we want it to go. And in this case, I did bend it this way because it was bent the wrong way. Now these are on the wrong side from what you saw earlier. There's a reason for that. I actually overbent it. And I got some heat in there, took the heat source away, let it cool down, took off the clamps, and I've actually bent it a little bit too far. So I've gone a little bit back the other way. But the good thing about this is it's shown that we can bend this neck in any direction we want to. So with the neck clamped tight and straight, with the brace holding the guitar down so it isn't going to move, we've got everything tightened up. We have this in the perfect straight position, and all I need to do now is get some heat right through the neck, all the way through. So I'm going to do what I normally do, and that is place a piece of steel or a strip of steel along the length of the neck. What this is going to do is it's going to enable me to get heat where I need it, but it is not going to be directly onto the fingerboard because we still kept the frets in. If we took the frets out and got heat directly on there, we'd be melting the inlays, melting all the glue, they'd pop out. But this way, with that strip on there, we are able to get, let me just zoom out because it'll make things easier. With that strip on there, I'm going to go with a clothes iron on medium heat, and we're going to gently get some heat into the fibre of the wood through the neck, and it will heat all the way through. And I like to get heat probably from the 7th fret down to the end, and it's just a matter of having our clothes iron on there on the non-steam setting, have it at a medium heat. It doesn't have to be too hot. I've already marked on the iron where I need it to be. It's just a matter of leaving that on there, letting the metal strip heat up. The heat will go through the metal strip and through to the guitar, going all the way through. And that should give us sufficient heat to expand the fibres and for the guitar to set back in this position. Once I've got enough heat in there and as far back as I need it to be, I'll remove the iron, I'll let this neck cool down. Once it's cooled down, we can remove these restraints and the neck will be straight. Really, really simple design. Effective only if you don't get anything too hot. Now that was just some water on the steel bar there, I didn't know that. So that's nothing to worry about, it's not steaming. I'm going to turn this over because there's two ways this works and it's probably going to work better that way. The steel strip is slightly bent or not straight. So I'm going to leave that for a short while. I'm going to keep checking underneath that we're getting heat in there. I'm going to move the iron back and forwards until I've got the heat transfer in enough positions for me to consider this neck set. Back on the jig, we had a problem with the, once we got the twist out, the fingerboard had moved across the neck and it was overlapping on one side. So imagine this is the neck, this is my fingers of a fingerboard, it had slipped across. Now I've managed to get it back to where it needs to be with the neck, with the twist out. I've got it back and I've got it clamped and I'm just letting it cool down using the old glue. Now we do have a very, very slight ridge of lacquer where the binding meets the neck itself, but that is not that bad. My professional opinion is we need to flash a couple of sprays over this, but we could get away with not doing that depending on how fussy you are and how you are with the budget. Now to go and get this re-lacquered, it's going to cost another 300 quid. I've talked to my guy, and because of the state and nature of the guitar, he says we're going to have to flash across the whole neck, which I totally understand. It's absolutely right, just to blend everything in, and that is going to be £300. So that adds a considerable amount to the budget. But I've talked to the owner, I've let him know that we could possibly get away with it. I mean, what we could always do is I just refret it as it is, and there's a ridge on this side as well, you can feel it a little bit more. It's just where the binding and the neck meet. So here's the top of the neck, here's the binding, and where that meets, that gap there, there's a little bit of build up of lacquer and you can kind of feel it. We could leave it because it was all about getting this guitar refretted and playable, and we could totally do that. We could always look somewhere down the line a little bit later on, getting it lacquered later on, which is also an option. But the thing about that as well as leaving it till later is it doesn't affect, I mean, it's not a big budget to lay out right now, and it's something that can be changed later. It also means that I can crack on and get the refret done. Now what I'm going to be doing now this is done, I'm going to let this everything cool down. I'm going to make sure that the fingerboard is stuck properly to the neck. Sure it will be. And once I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with the angle of the headstock, it's not twisted anymore. If it is twisted, it's not twisted too much. As long as I can re-radius the whole board without removing too much material, this will be more or less ready for refretting this week. So that is what I am looking at. Let's hope that we're blessed that this is nice and straight. The neck is straight enough. We did have a little bit of a hump down here as well. I'm not sure if that's gone yet. If it isn't, we can get rid of that. But you know, it's a very difficult job getting wood to go back. I mean, I know when I coaxed it to go back to its original place, but once it's bent out of shape, you've got to do all the wizardry and trickery that you know to get it right. And I didn't foresee that the fingerboard was going to come off the neck itself and move like it did. But then again, it makes complete sense when you're twisting something that's twisted that much and you straighten it back up with heat. Maybe I got a little bit too much heat in there, but we haven't damaged anything, we've not burnt anything. And it's always going to be, to get enough heat in there, you're going to have to go a little bit more heat than you want to, or than what is comfortable anyway, and it's always going to unseat the glue. I'm sure it's going to be okay, but what I will do is I'll let it settle, and I'll come and have a look in a while, and I'll let you know how we get on. So friends, this is really quite remarkable, because not only do we have the twist out, the fingerboard realigned to the neck underneath and glued on nicely, we also have the neck almost dead straight, which is quite remarkable. But do understand, we had everything supported underneath with the steel rods, and we had everything turned this way, and we treated it with heat, and it's bent everything back into place, and the glue was unglued and reset while we had it all strapped in. Now I've removed all of the steel bars from under the neck. I've just loosened the truss rod. The truss rod is completely loose. There you go. And we have got a not straight edge from GMI. Wrong way. And there you go. I'm just checking. And with the truss rod completely loose, that neck is probably as straight as we can get it anyway. I'm really pleased about that, because what I'm going to do is I'm now going to remove the frets and re-radius the fingerboard. But what I will be doing is I'll be setting all these up again, these steel bars underneath, to get the neck set as it is right now, all supported underneath with the steel rods and clamped down with the strapping. So we're going to keep it in that position. Then I'm going to go on it with a radius beam and some 240 grit sandpaper, and we're going to completely re-radius the board. I will explain a little bit more about that as and when I do it. First, I'm going to get the frets removed, which is going to be the next part of the job. And I'm thinking I can keep it on the jig and take the frets off as it is, and we'll come back and take a look at it a bit closer when I've done that. Well, I've moved the bench or the jig under the LED light so we can see better, because it is quite early in the morning. It's not long after 6 in the morning. I'm going to remove the frets, and I'd say astonishingly, but it's no surprise to me, these frets are not difficult to remove at all. Look at these frets, by the way. I'm hoping you can see from there. There's nothing on them at all, absolutely no height, but these are falling out. Like I say, it's had a fret job before, and it's just a matter of getting the fret pullers on there. If I can get the fret pullers on there, there's just no height at all. But look at that, they're just coming straight out. They are chipping quite a bit. We're going to run some super glue down there, because we're going to recut the slots anyway. But look at these, they're just falling out. There's going to be a lot of chipped areas to fix later. Not a lot I can do about that. I always knew it was going to happen, but these are just falling out. Disgusting. I knew I was going to be fixing the chipped areas anyway. I've added some extra onto the price. So, plans with this guitar. I mean, I've got the neck straight, I've got the twist out, we've got a fingerboard moved back. It is going to need spraying. I'll be taking it over to Mr. Eastwood over at Beaver Guitars, who was unfortunately relocated. He was in Grantham, and I used to go over there every couple of months. Good friends. But now he's had to relocate to Norfolk. So I'm going to be taking the guitar. It's about an 80-mile drive there, 80 miles back, then leave it with him, let him get it sprayed up, and we'll fetch it again. I'm charging for fuel, but I'm not charging for my time, so I'm giving 8 hours driving free on this guitar. But it's not going to be a cheap fix, this guitar anyway. We have slightly extended the budget. All this work that's being done should be in excess of £1,000. It's not going to be anywhere near that. I already set my rate before. Anyone else doing this job would have charged over £1,000. I'm not charging. I'm charging substantially less than £1,000 for this work. But that's all the frets are. As simple as that. But there is a lot of chipping. There was a lot of chipping left over from the last refret. I've not got the neck supported underneath yet. The steel bars are just all loose. I'm just going to have a look at the chips. There's loads of chip in there. It's going to take me a good 3 hours to sort this, get all this chipping sorted out. It's not something I'm going to do this morning, but I can support the neck and re-radius of the board. We should be a 12-inch radius. Vintage and modern Gibsons alike are a 12-inch radius. Even though nowadays they do a could be anything from 10 to 12, and we do actually do a compound radius on some models with more modern, traditional versions of their Les Pauls. What tool do I need while I'm here? Bear with me. I have a box over here with all my neck tools in, and sometimes you have to do a little bit of digging to find the tool you want. In this case, this little tool here. And it is a fret slot, so I'm going to have to drop this out. You see I've got the pickups, I haven't got them removed, but I've taken the pickup rings off and dropped the pickups inside and taped over. Now the chipping at this end is really, really bad. I will bring the camera over by hand at some point today and show how bad this chipping is. The fret slots are really not that deep as well. I'm going to have to look inside there. It is possible we're not going to have a lot to work with. Where's my fret depth slot? There you go. 10 to 14, and just have a look in there. Oh, we just have enough. Oh, we do have enough wood to work with there. They are deep enough. That's absolutely fine. Little depth measurer. This is a StuMac one. What we'll do is when we're in here, we don't want to be cutting through the binding. We do have a push and a pull on this blade. Now when it comes to this end, we're going to have to hammer the frets in, and when down here we can press them in. We can't press them in at this end because the body in that is too thick to get under my fret press. I'm going to get this removed shortly. I'm going to come back, I'm going to reset the table because I need to get my overbench sorted over there for setting other guitars up. And we are going to re-radius the whole fingerboard. I mean, there's no point in actually doing this, cutting these slots right now, because we're going to get all crap in there. But you see how that works. No glue in these slots at the moment. I will be, I say gluing them, I'm not really going to be gluing them in. I'll be dropping some Titebond in the slots, but only as a gap filler. The fret wire I'm going to be using will hold itself pretty well to the wood. I'm thinking the wood's going to be pretty dry. I may soak these slots with oil over a day or two. Just get some mineral oil in there and let that soak in, soften the wood up at the edges just a little bit. There's going to be a lot of repair work done on this fingerboard before I'm able to fret it anyway. I just wanted to show where I am right now and what stage we are at. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be bringing the steel bars up underneath the neck to get the neck straight. I'm going to re-radius the whole board. The tuners, I don't have to remove the tuners, which is a good thing, but these tuners will be coming off anyway for when the guitar is sprayed. Now I'm going to just go and grab radius beam, 12 inch. There you go. Sanding beam, 12 inch radius beam there. You can see that it's got no paper on it at the moment. I will be cleaning this off and covering it with some 240 grit sandpaper, and we are going to re-radius the whole board. Get it as close to 12 as we can, but we're going to smooth everything off anyway. And this helps me to see if there's still a slight twist. There is a slight twist. This has been re-radiused before, and look how low it is that side. That's because the neck has been twisted before. It's really bad, but I'm going to make the best of a bad job. If I still have to have it a little bit lower this side than this side, so be it. It's the way it is. It's all about getting this guitar playable and getting it to stay playable. We are 12-inch radius at that end, which is fantastic. Someone's refretted this before. They refretted it badly. They re-radiused the fingerboard badly as well. I cannot fix what they have broken, but I can make it work. And that is my job. So leave that with me. I will come back and give you an update as normal, as and when. For re-radiusing the neck, we're going to need to get some sandpaper on this radius beam. And how we're going to do that is, let's give it a wipe over. I'm going to stick some double-sided sticky tape on the underside of this radius beam, but not directly to it. That would be stupid, because if we do that, it could be a real bind to get it back off. So what we're going to do is we're going to first line with masking tape, and what I'm going to do to start with is just make sure that we've got the surfaces of this clean. There's no detritus or any dirt or grease or anything from any previous jobs. That was white spirit. I gave it a swish within. I'm going to go with a little bit of naphtha, which will evaporate and take any grease or anything off there from the white spirit. And that should be clean. I'm going to have a chamois leather. I'm going to take some 25mm tape. Tape over these edges first, which will become apparent why I do this in a short while. Well, I'll tell you, it helps with removing the tape later on. Both ends. So we are going to first tape right to the edge of the beam, because we're going to do two levels or two layers of this. You see how this is going to work. I am doing it quick for the camera, and the light's not very good here. Just want to make sure we don't overlap. Doesn't matter if we leave a tiny gap. It's not going to make any difference once the sandpaper's on there. Just don't want any overlap. Have a little bit of a fold there, which I'm going to take out. Don't want any bumps, ridges, folds or anything. We need a perfectly radiused beam. I'm going to do that strip again because it's not perfect. Oh, hang on a minute. There you go, that's good enough. No, it isn't. I'll do that strip again. You could have a little kink in there. It has to be perfect. If it's not where you want it, bring it back up. And hit back down. There you go, that's nice. It's as nice as a ripple in there. You know what it is? I'm rushing because I've got to get out to work in 20 minutes. So I'm just going to take my time, do it right. One. Now you see this side, we're going to overlap, we're not bothered about that. Overlapping at the edges doesn't matter because it's going to happen. But let me show you how we sort that out. Tear off the edge. This side, tear off the edge. Overlap. Then we're going to do another layer. Overlap these gaps, you see. Doesn't matter if we've got a tiny gap between these two pieces. Makes it all make sense. And now we have a perfectly level surface there for the double-sided sticky tape. Double-sided sticky tape again. Don't have to be so straight with this, I'll explain why in a moment. This is just for getting the sandpaper on the base. Thing is now, when we want to remove this double-sided sticky tape, we pull off the masking tape, which is really easy to get off. It leaves no residue on the beam. It's a very easy clean up. And the good thing about this is you'll be able to use this sandpaper on here 5, 6, 7, 8 times, quite a lot. So there you go, nice and level with that. Now you'll see down the middle, it's not wide enough to accept a strip of 25mm. So we go with a strip of 19. It doesn't matter about leaving small gaps because sandpaper will still stick perfectly to the radius. And that really is as difficult as it is. It's not difficult at all. What I'm going to do is I'll take a blade, slice through the top layer, remove this backing. When I get in there, I'll go with some 240 grit sandpaper. I will finish this off. What time is it? I think I could do it now. I'll just cut this a little bit longer than I need it to be. That's ready to go on. Again, really easy. I do show this procedure now and again. Don't do it on every job. Get that out of the way. Probably the most tricky part is getting this off. What I'm going to do is just press firm down the centre. I'm going to try and get the blade underneath just to pick it. And see, that's bringing the sticky up with it. We don't want it to bring the sticky up with it. You can try and cut through it. Sometimes works. Like in that case, it has worked. Got to be very careful with this. You can see where we're going with this. If you get a little ridge pop up, scrape it back down. And there you go. And all we're going to do then is, once we get to the edge, like so, I'll hold down. I'm actually going to grab a Stanley blade for a Stanley knife for this. Get the blade right out, and we're just going to cut. Like so. Whoops! Didn't want to drop that on my toes. And that is it. We have a nice levelling beam. We're just going to tear down here. I did say levelling beam, I meant radius beam. And there you go. We have a radius beam ready for re-radiusing the fingerboard. 12-inch radius, job's a good one. I'm going to go back to the other bench. So, we are re-radiusing the whole board. Some bits you've already seen. We have a stupid amount of chips down this end. 7 or 8 on there, 7 or 8 on there. About 30 at that end. 5, 10, maybe 10. Well, about 50, 55 chips to fix on this, but we're nowhere near ready for refretting yet. I have ordered the fret wire, but what we're looking at doing now is re-radiusing the whole board. And I've had a few passes so far, and we're just going to keep going because this side of the board is thicker than this side. I don't know if you can see it, but here there's been more shaved off that side than this side, so I'm going to try and even it up. But I've gone over with some pen, marker pen, and we're just going to keep going until we get this fingerboard even. And I'm pressing slightly on this side. It may look like it's going a bit skew-width, and maybe it is going a little bit skew-width, but it's not going to make a difference. We are going to maintain this radius once we finish everything off. I could have maybe gone with a coarser grit of paper. Maybe I could have gone with some 160, maybe even some 120, just to remove a lot of material. But it's faffing about, so I'll bide my time with this. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be brushing it every now and again, cleaning it up. And I'm going to be checking the radius. Now, what I've talked to the owner, I've recommended, I would probably go with vintage fret wire, but he wants to go modern. So we're going with a 2.8mm fret wire, 2.8 wide by 1.4 high. I'm going with Hosco's, not Hosco's, I'm going with Sinton's Elite, which is 25% nickel silver. It's the hardest fret wire that I know of. Right, this is not exactly 12 anyway, so we need to go with a coarser paper, I think, because that is nearer a 10-inch radius. I might even go with a 10-inch actually, because that's not 12, it's way too uneven for 12. So I'm going to re-radius this to 10 anyway. I'm going to go a little bit, not 10, sorry, yes 10. It's not as flat as I thought it was, so I'm going to get some paper on a 10. We're going to go with a 10-inch radius on this. So I will go and get a, let's see if I've got one ready done. I just assumed it would be 12, because they normally are. See if we've got any paper on a 10. I've got some 240 grit on a 10 lot already here. So that makes the job easier. Not use this one for a while. Got some 240 grit on there, so we're just going to go so I'm going to keep going at this for a short while. Very surprised to see it was a 10 radius. I assumed it would be a 12. I can still feel a slight hump in the middle, so I need to get that out anyway. But anyway, I'm going to crack on with this and I'll come back and I'll bring you back in once we are where I need to be. I mean, just to show, this is a 7 1/4 inch radius gauge. And we are closer to 7 1/4 than we are to 12 on the radius. I don't know what's happened over time, but wow, just check a 9.5 on there. I have heard rumours that Gibson did go and use different radiuses. I mean, that is very close to 9.5. There's hardly any difference at all at the top end. So I'm going to radius this to 10 inches. I've just had a check. It's as close as anything. It's not going to make that much of a difference. So that is exactly 10 inches at that end. This end, it starts to just, again, get a little bit tighter at this end. These edges are going in. So whoever's radius this board before has done it completely wrong. We're about 1/2 mil higher on this side than that side, maybe even more. No, say about 1/2 mil. I'm going to go with a coarser sandpaper. I'm going to get some 120 on the radius beam, and I'm going to bring this down to 10 inch. So I'm going to remove a bit of material. It means I've got to get these slots a little bit deeper. I don't want to remove too much material because the fret tanks aren't going to fit in. And we don't want that, so I'm just going to get it smoothed off, and I'm going to make my perfect level with the frets. I'm actually going to radius the frets to the correct radius, so the frets will be a bit thinner at one side and maybe a bit thicker in the middle, or vice versa. They may be a bit thicker on the outside, a bit thinner in the middle, but we will get the radius right. But I've got to work with what I have, and I don't want to be removing too much wood because these slots aren't going to be deep enough for the new frets. 240 grit was just not cutting the mustard, so I've gone with some 120 grit. I'm just giving it a brush, and the problem is we're thicker this side than that side. I've gone over with some marker pen. I'm going to try and remove all of this marker pen, but I'm going to concentrate more on this side. We've not touched this side with the beam yet at all. It just shows you how this side is. Whoever refretted this before didn't make a very good job of re-radiusing this board. So, same again. And you can see we're removing all the pen from this side, but it's hardly touching the far side. And we've just got to keep going. But like I said, I don't want to remove more wood than is necessary, because it will cause problems later. At least this side we're looking pretty good. It's actually not too bad. Maybe the inlays are down a little bit more because it seems to have gone off full wood. Like I say, this is 80 grit. It's going to remove a lot of material, so I need to just keep coming back and checking. As long as we get close to 10, like I say, the playing surface is going to be the frets, so I can make the frets the correct radius anyway, or just match this as it is. It makes no difference. I would like a flatter radius than a 10. I would given a choice, prefer a 12. Let me just find the gauges, here they are. But alas, can't have a 12. We're removing too much material. So let's just have a look. And that's a nice 10. And that's pretty good. And the edges are just rolling over down this end. There's nothing I can do about that, because we're just going to end up removing too much material. We're going to be closer to an 8 at this end. Not really much I can do about it. Just check we've got no hump in the middle, because I can remove more from there. But at least any humps or bumps or gaps we had in the past, they are now gone. We're straight down the middle. We're straight on the far side. And we're straight on the near side. I mean, this is quite standing really. We've got a little hump somewhere along this edge. Somewhere down here. That's probably why we're not touching this far side. I think we've got a little hump somewhere there. We did have a hump in the middle anyway, which I knew about. I'm going to keep going and keep checking. It's always a bit of a trade-off when you've got such a bent warp neck like this was. There's always going to be a trade-off somewhere, and it may be, even though it's uneven here, higher there and lower there, it's not that rare a thing when a guitar's been refretted or it's had a bent neck or whatever. No, it's just fortunate for me that getting the twist out also resulted in my neck becoming straight as well. That means I've got good heat in there, but still is a little ridge, if you run your finger along the side, where the binding meets the neck. Very, very slight. I could get away without respraying that, but I've already commissioned a respray. It's not going to be cheap. I'm going to take it down to a friend down in Norfolk. I'm going to drive down there, and we've arranged for it to be done. All we need is a couple of flash coats, maybe 3 coats. Just flash over there after I've done the refret, and it should all blend this in. End of the day, it's about getting this guitar playable, which was my main. Here's the main reason he bought it here. It was a piece of junk scrap when he bought it here. Now it is going to be a refretted, playable, vintage Gibson guitar. I'm going to concentrate more down here a little bit. And I really don't want to go much more at it than that, because otherwise these slots are going to become they're not going to be deep enough for the frets. Then I'm going to be grinding bits off bottoms of tangs, and I don't want to be doing that. It's more labour, and the price has already been agreed. I've already put more hours into this than I was going to anyway. Not that I'm going to slack or cut back on anything, that's not me. Right, we have removed all of the pen. And I think that's how I'm going to work it. That's what I'm going to work with. Just going to check the depth of these slots. And yeah, we are going to be deep enough. Get the proper tool. Barely a 10-14. Crikey. We're probably just deep enough for the frets there. Have a look. Yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine with that. Okay, I do need to saw into that one. That's not quite deep enough, but I've got the little tool. Yeah, they've taken too much wood off this side in the past. Someone's done that. Good thing about it is there's less chips to repair now, because some of them are more or less disappeared with all the sanding. But that is it. I can't alter that anymore. I can't change that radius anymore, because we're going to get too deep into the wood. I'm going to get my small saw out of the box. That's indeed where I put it. It is. And we're just going to check a couple of slots. Now I still have to repair the slots, and I've got to wait for the fret wire anyway. Ah, there you see, this is why we're not going deep enough. It's all full of crud because I've just been sanding. So let's have a look inside there. I think that must be the push. Yeah, that's the push. And this one's the pull. Yeah, that's the pull. So now, this great little tool, great little kit, this Hosco. This costs, this doesn't weigh anything, it weighs, it's about the weight of a feather. Cost me 25 quid about 5 years ago. I was astounded at the price, but I'll tell you what, I've used it that many times, it's a fantastic piece of kit. But anyway, let's have a look, see where we are. Do I have a light to shine on that? I did, but I now don't. Hang on a minute, bear with me. Bear with me, I can show you exactly how this tool works. Get my phone light, and there you go. And there you go, can you see that? And there's a tool, and there's the line there. It's got a line on it, shows us if the slots are deep enough. If I can get it lined up, we'll be able to get in there. And that's just about deep enough. It's on the bottom one, that should be fine. That's the bottom one's 2mm. I think the tang length on the fret wire I bought is 1.8, so we're going to be absolutely fine with that. So that's good. So job is a good one. So that is a radius I'm going with, whatever it may be. It's 10 at this end. It's getting closer to 8 at this end, unfortunately. It's just, we'll do the level. As long as we get them level, it's all that matters. I don't have a lot to work with. I don't want to remove any more material from there. We're going to get too low. It's not even enough as it is. So there you go. So that's the board prepped. It's not quite ready yet. I've got to fill some chipped areas at this end and this end and down here a little bit. One thing I can do, and one thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to give it a squirt of naphtha when I find it. We don't have naphtha in England. The closest thing we have to naphtha is Zippo lighter fluid. It's the same stuff. It's great for drying wood out and getting rid of grease and everything. So I'm just going to give it a good spread over there. Look at that. And you might be thinking, why is it drying the wood out? That's not going to work. It's going to splinter and crack when you put the frets in, and you're absolutely right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak this fingerboard in mineral oil overnight. Not tonight. Once I've repaired all of these chipped areas, I'm going to get some mineral oil and drop it in the slots and let's soften all the wood up, ready to accept the new frets. Then we'll, after a day, I might even leave it 2 days, scrape it all out and let it dry over another night. So it's going to be 3 more nights before I can put the frets in on this guitar, because there's a lot of prep work to be done in the wood. This wood is very dry. It's been stood for years, it's been an attic, it's got warps and blah blah blah. And we're going to get some, just drop some mineral oil all over, let it get into the slots, just so the wood takes the frets better. Got a lot of chips down this end as well, a big fat one there, quite a lot here. I did mention earlier I've got about 50-60 chips to repair, so there's a good 3-4 hours work in that. It's something else I'm going to do later in the week. Well, I'm not going to do it later in the week, I'm actually going to do it tomorrow. And then I can, by the end of the week, I should be ready to refret this. Should be doing this. This should be done by the end of next week, no problem. We should have a whole lot done, ready to go to the spray shop down at Viva Guitars. So that's as much as I can do on that right now. I'm going to repair some chips in a short while. I will probably come back and show you the result of that. I'm not going to show you me doing it. I've got so many other things to do. So back soon. So I've decided now I'm going to remove the guitar from the neck jig because it's more difficult to work on. I mean, I've got this 3-way switch still in, so I can't get into these gaps in these frets. It doesn't need to be on here anymore. We have got the neck straight. We have re-radiused the fingerboard, and we can now do all the work I need to do without it being on the jig, i.e. clear all these slots out, fill all the chipped areas, or repair all the chipped areas, and prep it all for new frets so it can go. And the good thing about it is getting this neck jig out of the way, putting it away, is it gives me a lot more room in the workshop. Having this out all the time is you know, it means I've had to work other jobs around this table or around the other table. So And now I'll have this bench back, and this is a bench I want to be using for my setups at night time. It's night time, it's dark outside now, and I can't really, I've got another guitar to do and I can't do it, I need to do it on this bench. So the great thing about this is, let me just zoom out and you can see what I'm doing. Let me just drop this down because I'm going to basically, this is still all strapped in, and then we've got the steel rods underneath all tightened up, and what we're going to do is we're going to loosen everything. What I'm going to do is, with the guitar still strapped in at this end, I'm going to remove all steel rods underneath supporting the neck are gone, and there you go. And now the neck is loose. Alright, and now I can check it. I can check it properly for straightness. Let's see if it's still straight. And that, my friends, hallelujah, that is a perfectly straight neck, which it wasn't perfectly straight when it came in the workshop, I guarantee it. And down there, there's a little bit of fall away down that end, that is not a problem. We can change also anything on the truss rod anyway. So it's still not perfectly straight, there is a tiny bit of, no, we're straight, that's good. Seems to be a tiny bit of fall away this end, that is not a problem at all, because by altering the truss rod we can get this dead straight anyway. I'm really pleased with that. Look at it, I'm just going to sight it down this end. And that is beautiful. We have a great playing surface there, non-twisted neck. That's wonderful compared to how it was. It really is excellent. Still a lot lower on this side than that side, which is a shame, but I can't take any more off this side. It's going to bring everything down too low. We're going to have to work with it. But that will be absolutely fine. I've worked with worse necks than this before, so that's great. So we're going to remove it from the jig. It just means I can do everything everything else, and even this, I can work on everything a lot easier. So let's free the beast. And there you go, and she is free. Some other things I want to do and find out is, I've had a look at the pickups inside. I want to identify what these pickups are. I'm also going to remove the knobs. We're going to take these pointers off. We're going to clean everything up and put them back on. I'm going to check the electrics. So there's lots of work to be done on this guitar yet, but the guitar is now free. It should be. It's glued itself to there, look. But there you go. And the reason I wanted this off is I need to remove this so I can work in this area. So I'm going to take the knob off, the tip off. Going to put that in the pot with the rest of its bits. Going to remove the tape. We'll be getting more tape on later. I'm going to remove this switch. So be very quite careful when removing this, because you can bring flakes of paint off if there's, it's an old guitar. But that's gone pretty well. I can certainly use that piece of tape again. It's fantastic. We'll use that for shielding the nut or something later. Pretty well. And while I'm here, I'm going to actually look at the pickups. I'm going to save this piece of tape off and go back on. So move this at this end. Save up those pieces of tape. What I can do is I can take some pictures of the underside of the pickups and then find out what they are. So that's all good. A lot of what I do is also research, which I don't charge for and you don't really see. Well, you definitely don't see me do that. I did watch someone research. But I did have a phone somewhere. There you go. So there you go, here's one pickup. And it is patent number, it's just got a patent number on there. It's just a message off my friend Danny Lynn from Leicestershire Leafy there, with a bit of a convo about certain jobs. I'll show you in a minute. Bless asked him. I've asked him if he's got we're doing a project together. He's not had time yet. Anyway, this pickup is, she's got a patent number on there. Just take a picture of that, both sides. And this one again, same. I'll take a picture of that one. Oh, so I took two there. Let's delete one. There you go. So we have bridge, patent number 2737.842. Is that a bridge? Oh, hang on, 2737.842 on both of them. So we've just got patent numbers on there. That's a bridge one. So we don't know. We've just got a patent number and that is it. So I'll go and find out what they are. Could be DiMarzio's, I don't know what they are, could be Gibson's. Something else here is there have been some snap screws in there. I'm going to take a picture of that for Dave. I'm not able to get those out. They're too small. I'm not even going to try and drill them out. We're just going to knacker the guitar. So we're going to drill, put the new screws next to them somewhere. I actually noticed that when I was taking the screws out earlier. I'm going to have to buy some new screws. Now, that's not ideal, and it doesn't help with the value of the guitar either. So anyway, it's not really my problem, is it? Get it playable. That is my remit. Get it playable for 800 quid. There you go. So there you go. I'm going to remove this switch just so I can work around this area. I'm going to get it taped up again and we're going to move on, and everything I've already explained what we're going to do to the next. No point in repeating it. Come back in a while. Moving on. We are not even halfway through yet on this project, and I'm now going to be working on the neck or on the fingerboard itself, and what we need to do is we need to prepare this ready for taking new frets. And again, not a little job, it's a big job. And one thing I have to do, one, I've got to clear these slots out, which I've already explained in small detail earlier, but I've also got to repair the chipped areas, because we can't just stick frets in and leave these chips out. This is what happened last time. Whoever refretted it last time didn't repair the chips, and it's left this fingerboard in a right state. And I have had a little tally up of the ones I must repair. We're about 70 now. I took this over to Danny at Leicestershire Luther at the weekend to show him the work I've done and what I'm going to be doing. And he himself says, I won't bother. Just get the frets in, then drop super glue in after, and all these slots will fill with super glue. Which you can do, it's another way of doing it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to repair these before I refret it, because what I'm going to do is, once I've repaired all of these chips, I'm going to recut the slots using this Hosco saw, which I explained about and showed you earlier, or earlier in video. And then I'm going to basically drop mineral oil in all of the slots and just let this wood soak in a bit of the oil, just so it expands a little. It's more easily, more readily easy, or more ready to accept frets, because this wood is hard and the frets, it's going to be difficult to get the frets in. I'm thinking I'm going to be using Tight Bond as a filler. I'm not going to be super gluing the frets in. So I've decided what I'm going to do. It's the way I do things anyway, but we're just going to have a look inside these slots, and we're going to go in with the Hosco saw, and we're just going to see what kind of condition, what kind of depth we've got in there. We all need doing anyway, but I need to see that there, look. We need to clear these anyway to get the when I'm gluing these in and repairing these chips, I'm going to be placing a strip of silicone inside the fret slot, so when I drop glue and wood dust at the sides, it's not gonna drop in and fill the slot. We don't want to be filling the slots with anything. The good thing about this saw is I've got a push-pull saw, and I'm always not quite sure which is the push and which is the pull. So I just stick it in and have a go and see where we are. But at the moment I'm just getting all the crap out of these slots that's in there from when I re-radius the board. What I don't want to do, I'm really taking my time because I do not want to be cutting through the binding, because I want to keep that binding intact. Now I've been doing a little bit of digging on this guitar, trying to find out what year it is, and believe it or not, the Cherry Sunburst was a 1971 model. Now Dave, the owner of this guitar, has come back to me with some more evidence suggesting it might be 1971. The only thing that says it's not a 1971 is the serial number. Serial number puts it at 63, 67 or 73. So I don't know the year of this guitar. I'm not really, it's not where I'm not interested. I don't think it's that important now. You know, I'm sure we can date it by digging more into it, but I'm not that concerned with how old it is at the moment. These fret slots are really thin, by the way. I'm going to struggle with these fret slots. I think it's going to possibly back by the neck when I get the frets in. I want to make sure the tang on the new frets is going to be exactly 1/2 millimetre. I'm really struggling to get this saw through here. It's a 1/2 mil saw. I may have to just get a Stanley blade in there. That slot's okay. I've already done the slots at this end. They're all pretty good at this end. They're all pretty good. So we've done up to where we just come to the end. The bit that joins, where it joins the body. Another reason why I'm going to drop some oil in there and let it soak in, it's going to take the frets much more easily, because quite a bit of crap. Well, it's not so much as crap in there. These holes are really, really tight. I'm going to grab a Stanley blade and just see where we are. I've got the last Stanley blade in the pack here. I need to go and get another pack of these, just so make sure that everything's alright inside there. And again, Stanley blades, struggling to get in the slot. So I have my work cut out to get this ready for frets. That one seems to be clear now. I'm not putting a time limit on, or I'm going to try and hazard a guess of how long it's going to take me to fill these chips. There's some really deep ones coming right up to the inlay there. There's a good few hours in this, and that's just getting it ready for the new frets. Then I'm going to soak it for 2 days in oil. Then I'm going to remove the oil from the slots, or remove it best I can, let it dry for another day, and then I can refret it. So it's not going to the paint shop this week, it'll be going the week after. Now I've put a, there's an ETA on this. I'm going to get it done for Christmas, but I'm hoping it's going to be done, and it should be done by the middle of December, ready to go back. I'd imagine the owner will be coming to pick it up middle of December. It's going to be going to Clive Eastwood at the Beaver Guitars for lacquering. But I'm lacquering my neck. I've also got the electrics to sort out. If there had been more money thrown at it, we'd have been looking at repotting the pickups, wax potting. But we are out of money on this project. I do have a budget. I do have a ceiling that I'm working to, and that's including paying the paint man. I'm not going to be making as much on this as I ought to be. That's okay. So you see what I'm doing here, just clearing these slots. Some are easier than others. A lot of work to do. Just slightly cut through the top of that binding. That's not going to be a problem because the fret is going to cover it, but I want to make sure I don't do that too often. I will turn the guitar around 180 degrees and go from the other side as well. So we're down to fret 12, so we're doing okay. But I'm getting to see where all these chip areas are and how many there are. And there is a stupid amount of chipping to fix. It's going to take me half a day. So I think this will be the only thing I'm doing today. I do have work listed on my board. I've been doing a guitar a day off my board and coming and working on this. I've already done today's guitar, and we are now, I don't think we're too late. We are about 3 PM. I'm expecting another guitar in, but the guy's not contacted me yet. If people don't turn up, they go to the back of the list. My list is taking me, it's already taken me into January. We are November. I will not be open in December because I work for Raw Melt, unless maybe if I'm still furloughed, I'll keep the guitar shop open. But we'll see. But if people don't keep the appointments, unfortunately we're going to have to go to the back of the queue. I've got that many people waiting, and I've got some really good clients, some good returning clients waiting, and I said, look, you've just got to go in the queue. That's the way it is. Well, anyway, I'm going to crack on, get these all cleared. Once they're cleared, I'm going to start repairing the chips. I will, toward the end, come and show you how I repair the chips. I'm going to have all these done. So I'm just going to basically go blob on with my work, crack on, get it all done. And so when you come back, most of this will be done and it'll be ready for refretting, bar this end. I'll come and show you how I repair the chips just at this end. And you get an idea of what actually goes into chip repair and board prep for new frets. I'm just changing tack a little bit. I was going to get all these chips repaired and come back and show you toward the end how I do it, but I've gone a slightly different route, or a slightly different route this time. And normally what I do is, see these white bits here, these are strips of 1/2 mm thick silicone put in the slots behind the areas I need to repair, and I've gone and done the whole board because I'm going to go and do it all in one go. And not something I'd normally do. I'd normally do one fret at a time, but the reason I'm doing it in one go is, here's my super glue. It's the real thin stuff. I only have 2 of these, and they do tend to clog up, and you can break them so many times and use them, but chances are with only 2 of them I'm probably not going to have enough to do the whole board. So I'm going to do the lot in one go, and I'm going to show you how I do it. And this in here is a mix of rosewood and I believe it's alder dust. It's quite a reddish colour, but this is what I'm using to repair the slots. And all I'm going to do is, I'm going to do a lot in one go. And it's just a matter of taking a small amount. That's probably too much there, but that's okay. And what we'll do is we're just going to get it where we need it. And like I said, there's too much here, but that's okay, because we'll just move the excess over there. We can get it back in the bag in a while. And again, all I'm going to have to do is run a bead of super glue down the edge of this piece of silicone, and it'll fill the gaps. The dust will run in, and even if it sets proud of the fingerboard, it doesn't matter, because I have to resand the fingerboard and re-radius the fingerboard anyway. So I'm going to load this up. Like so. And I'm just going to show you how it works. I'm just going to run some super glue down here. Don't want to blow too much at the moment because it was just blowing air out. And it doesn't matter if I go with too much glue because it will dry. But there you go. And that will all run in the slot. There is too much glue there, but that's okay. And again on this one. I can just place it on the actual silicone, because it doesn't stick to silicone, it's why we use silicone. And when this is all dried, all I need to do is bend the silicone back and pull it out. It'll come out really, really easily. And then what I do with the excess dust, scrape it back into the bag. And with there, what I could do with this is take a little and run it over to see if it's dry, as dry, and I don't mind wasting a bit. I can just blow that out of the way, bend the silicone, bend it back, bend the silicone, bend it back, and I should just be able to pull the silicone away, like so. And there you go. And when I come to re-radius the board later, this will all be gone. It'll leave me a perfectly flat and smooth surface. What I would normally have done in the past is I would have attacked that with a file just to remove the excess, something like this one. And I'd normally go only with the grain, but because I'm showing the camera, I'm just going to go across the grain. I'm re-radiusing the board anyway. I know it doesn't look much at the moment, but when I've sanded this back you won't see any of this glue or any of this paste. Thing about super glue as well, with wood dust, even with wet red wood dust, it will turn it black. But there you go, you see how there it's going to disappear. And the great thing about having those slots pre-cut already, I've already cut the slots as you saw earlier, it won't be that difficult to get back inside them and just clear everything, and that slot is all ready for a new fret. It's not difficult. You just got to be careful you don't pull this too hard and snap through the binding, which I did down here. The binding all came way off, so I've glued it back. No great shakes, but you want to be very, very careful with this saw. Just inch it across like so. And okay, it looks messy at the moment. It won't do when I re-radius the board later on. So I'm going to crack on. I've got one this side to do. I'm going to crack on, get the rest of the board done before I knock off tonight. And tomorrow I can come back, we can get the radius beam on there, we can sand the radius in again, remove all the glue, then I'll finish it off with some 240, maybe even some 400 grit. Clear the slots again and we'll be ready for refretting. An update on the progress, and it may not look much now, it may look really, really messy, but the chips I needed to repair at this end are all done, bar there's one I need to go back to just there and one next to it on that one, but the rest of them are done and it's looking pretty fine. And I know it looks messy because I've used a file on it, but once we re-radius this board again, we're going to go across with some 120 grit, just take off a tenth, not even a tenth of a millimetre. And then we're going to smooth it off with some 240, then 400. This fingerboard is going to be smooth along its whole length. We're going to recut the slots, not cutting through the binding, and then this will be ready for fretting. Now I say ready for fretting, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be soaking the fingerboard in some mineral oil over a day, over 24 or 48 hours. I'm going to let some of the oil get into the slots. On the second or third day, I'm going to basically soak it back out, get it all back out and let it sit overnight. What that will do is soften the edges of the wood. It will make it easier for the frets to go in. I may be buying a new fret press to get them in, I'm not sure yet. There's one come up that looks really interesting from GMC, is it GMC Tools? I actually got some of their tools in the past. Now it is quite an expensive piece of kit, but I'm really considering getting it this week, so let's see how we go on. But once, anyway, I'm going to carry on, get the rest of these done. Once it's done, I'm going to sand it back and I'll bring you in before I refret it and show you the condition of the fingerboard and the slots. In fact, I'll even bring you in before that because I'll show you just before I oil it. Just checking that I've got the fingerboard dead straight, which I have. That is dead straight, with no tension on the truss rod at all. That is really, really good to see. I've just re-radiused the board. Well, not re-radiused, I've just re-sanded the board. And I'm checking the edges.
down the length, and we check straight, in a straight line, not at the edge of the neck, because you do that with a compound radius, that's different. Just checking there's no gaps on each side, and there's not. So that is perfectly straight along the length. We've got rid of the twist, we've fixed all of the chipped areas, I've sanded the fingerboard down, we've maintained a radius. We've had to go with a 10-inch radius on this because it was less than 10. And it should be a 12, but we had to do a small compromise. Quite happy that that's 10 along the whole length, really happy with that. And you should be able to see now that we've removed most of the chips, or all of the chips that matter, from the fingerboard. And to highlight how it's going to look, I'm going to get some naphtha, or to use Zippo lighter fluid, clean up the board, degrease it, ready for, I'm going to be soaking oil into the slots. But that's more or less how the board is going to look once it's all done. How fantastic does that look? So you get an idea of what a finished board's going to look like. Now, this being naphtha is going to evaporate. It's going to remove all the grease from the fingerboard, or any grease that's on there. I think you'll agree that that looks pretty good. Any chips that are left in there are that slight, you're not going to see them when the frets are in. So there you go, that is a fingerboard all ready. Well, it's almost all ready for frets. I'm going to need to clean out these slots again using my small saw. Just going to take a photo of this for Dave, the owner of the guitar, just so I can send it him. I've been updating him on I just want to take a picture of that board as it is. Check the picture myself. Oh, that looks fantastic. Let me just show you the picture. That is superb. Really, really pleased with that. So we removed, got rid of about 100 chips. Anything left on there is going to be inside the fret wire anyway. There's one I could fill there, I've got to get away with that, it's fine. Any at the edge that were there we've got rid of. Fret wire we're going with is going to be 2.8 wide, it's what Dave wants. I recommended we go with vintage 2.3, but he wants this 2.8 modern. So that's what we're doing. Once I've cleaned these slots out tomorrow, I'm going to soak it in oil, let some oil get in there, and maybe I'm going to leave it, probably going to leave it 24 hours, and we can start getting the frets in. So a couple of days time I'll be putting the frets in this. The frets I will be cutting to perfect width. I'll be cutting the tangs off so we sit inside. So a lot of work to be done on the fret wire yet. I've got to cut each one to size. It's having a lot of work, this guitar. We're not, still don't think we're halfway through yet. Just a very quick look at the fingerboard this morning. I've oiled it overnight, I've wiped the oil off, and it's had a good coating of oil there. I need to get the oil out of the slots, so I'm going to turn the guitar upside down on some kitchen paper and let whatever is going to seep out, let it seep out. Then when we get into the cracks, not the cracks, the slots, and we are going to clear these slots out, and we're going to get the guitar ready for the new frets. So this little job I'm doing now can be seen to be slightly unpleasant. It isn't, it's just a bit grubby, that's all. And then what we're doing is, I've wiped down the fingerboard, I've had it upside down for a number of hours with tissue underneath on this side. Now it clamped to the table just so it can draw out any oil that is in these slots. And now I'm going in there and I'm removing all the gunk and dust and horribleness that's in there, and you'll see it there on the there you go, and I'll just drop it on there, and 2 or 3 goes, and there's all the oil I put in there just to soften up the fret slots a little for refretting. Now you might be thinking, it's got oil in there, right? What's the point of putting glue in there if it's got oil in there? The thing is, I won't be using glue to stick the frets in. I use glue as a gap filler. That oil that's left in there, that little bit of residue, is not going to cause any harm to anything. I'm going to be using Type 1 as a gap filler only. it's going to set hard anyway. It sets hard like a resin. But these slots are all nice and being cleared, because I did clear them all yesterday before I even filed down fingerboard or re-radius the fingerboard proper. And it just makes it a lot easier to get all this crud out of here. It's not crud, it's wood dust. You know, maybe if there's any glue in there, be bits of old glue. What I need to do is make sure these slots are opened up all the way to the binding, because I will be cutting the fret tanks more or less right up to the binding, or within 0.5 millimetre. And if I don't cut the frets right, when I bang them in, they're going to be hitting wood right on this edge. And I don't really want that. But I don't want to cut too much in there. I'm going to cut through the binding like I nearly did at this point here, and did a tiny bit at that point there. You know, these things are expected, you know, when you're doing a job like this. End of the day, we had basically a plank come in for a refret, and it was not worth much more than a plank as it was. And now it will be worth more or less what it's insured for. It is, I do believe this guitar is insured for £5,000. You do it slightly over insured anyway. I would value this at, on a good day, 3,000 quid. Well, not even on a good day, about 3,000 quid, 3,500. All depends what someone paid for it. We need to identify the year. Now, I have been doing some research, and I've found out that Cherry Burst came out in 1971. I do have the owner of this guitar saying it could be a 71. The only thing that's saying it's not a 71 to me, and I'm no expert by a long stretch of imagination, is the fact that the serial number says this is a 63, a 67 or a 73. So by the serial number alone, it has to be a 73, because it's not a 60. It's certainly not a 63 or a 67. So everything screams 73 for me about this guitar. 73 is fine. The waffle tuners, or whatever they're called, I do believe they're come out in 68, 69. Now, one of these is really severely bent. I've straightened it. Can't remember which one it was. This one, I think. I've straightened that off camera. I wanted it off camera in case I snapped it. But no, it just happened that I did it off camera. So that has been straightened out. So the tuners are fine. There are a couple of screws holding the tuners in that need a little bit of attention. I think one or two are loose, so I'm going to have to re-plug those screw holes. Just going through these slots, making sure they're all good, making sure they're good to go. The fingerboard looks absolutely fantastic. It doesn't look quite new, but it certainly looks the best it's ever looked for many, many years. For some reason this fret slot's really wide there. Don't know why that is. This has been refretted before, we know that. It's certainly not nowhere near up to my standard. Just going over these slots again just to make sure that we are clear of as much oil as we can get out, and any crud and wood dust in there is all out. Don't worry, I should be wearing gloves for this, but don't worry, I will be washing my hands properly. After I've done this, I've got another guitar on the other bench. I've got an not an ESP, I've got a PRS, Mark Holcomb PRS, which is almost complete. Started that one this morning. Bit of fret leveling, set up, string change. So while I'm working on this Les Paul, Les Paul is priority, but I do like to add another one in with it. I've been doing another guitar with this every day. So one guitar and all the rest of my time allocated to this guitar. Because I did promise the owner of this guitar I will give it my full attention until it's done. Another development, we may not be going to the spray shop with it. I talked to a luthier friend of mine, and I took it over to him and he had a look and he says, you don't need to respray that. He says you could sand that back and just polish those sides up. He says, and that will be absolutely fine. The area we're talking about is where the binding touches the neck here, and there is a tiny, tiny ridge. You can just feel that side, just feel it this side. There's enough lacquer on there just to sand it in a little bit. So I think that's what we're going to do. If we do need to respray it, it will go and be sprayed. but I don't think it's absolutely necessary. So I'm going to play it by ear, see what it's like once I've got its refret done. And there's all that crud off there. Look, that's off another job I did earlier. I could attack this with a hairdryer and just blow any residue oil out in these slots. If there is any, it's only a tiny amount. I could just do that just to dry everything off. But I don't want to dry the wood out so much that when I put the frets in, it's going to crack or splinter the wood. I do think the surface of this fingerboard is now as good as we're going to get it. All of the big chips are filled in. There are a couple of tiny light ones I could, if I was really picky, I could fill, but once the frets are in, you're not going to see them anyway. So that, for me, is now ready for the frets. So next part of the process, the next part of the job is get the frets cut. That is going to take me a while, so I'm going to move on to something else for a short time, and I'm going to come back, we'll get some fret wire out and we'll start cutting the fret wire for this guitar. Moving on to fretting, and we need to prepare the fret wire. Now fortunately, the fret wire comes pre-radiused, and this is radiused to about 8 inches, so it's a tighter radius than we need, which is absolutely fine. And I've got some old stock and new stock. The fret wire we're using is Syntom's Elite, 2.8mm wide by 1.4 high. Fantastic fret wire. It's 25% nickel silver, which is the hardest nickel silver fret wire on the planet. I've been using it for about 18 months. And it's fantastic stuff. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut the frets to exact size, more or less. I have a little holder there to hold the frets in, so when I've cut a fret I'll place it in the relevant hole here. So we are a 22 fret guitar, so we're just going to, this is longer than it needs to be, there's plenty on this one. I'm only going to get 2 bits out of it though, so I'm just going to show you how I cut it, and I'll take a little bit more than I need. Really hard to cut. I may need to just nip the ends, and what we're going to do is we need to cut this so it fits the fret slot, and you'll see that behind there there's this tang, and we need to cut into the tang, and I'm going to cut some bits off with my, again, tang nippers. These are made again by Syntom's, the same brand as the fret wire, and this will cut stainless steel. I'm just going to go in there, I'm going to make my first cut, and hopefully you're going to see that I've cut away this corner of the fret. I'll put my hand behind it so you can see it's taken off a tang, and it cuts it flush, so we're able to slide it into the guitar and overhang, and we'll just get it so the tang sits right inside where we need it to. Seems a while since I've done a refret. Great pair of cutters these, for great tang nippers. Just need to slightly adjust that, it's just not quite open enough. Pretty good. Just keep checking, because we need this to fit the slot without forcing or pushing out the binding. And that is looking. We've still got plenty of excess on there. So this is going to take a while. It's not a difficult job, just got to take your time. And what we're looking for is there you go, for the tang to just fit inside the binding. I know you're not super close, but that looks pretty much spot on. Just got to check, because when we flatten this out we don't want it pushing out and squeezing the binding out. I just need to take a little bit more off this edge. I think that will be it. And that might still be a little bit wide. I think we'll be there. If we go, see, I probably took a little bit too much off there, so we'll put that on the next one. And there you go, that'll fit that one beautifully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the size I'm just going to nip the ends off, nip that side off, nip that side off, and we have got the fret more or less cut to perfect size. Get that in there, get that in there, and look at that, that's beautiful. I can put that either side, either way, and that is one fret done. I'm going to do them all. I'm just going to have a tiny little bit of overlap. You see I have already cut the ends flush that way, so we've got less to file off when we get them in, but that is one done. Number 21, so we'll stick that in number 21, and I'm going to crack on, and I'm going to cut all the others, and they're all going to fit just about perfectly. I'll explain how we get the frets in once I've got them all cut. Refretting. Okay, so that may not look brilliant to you, but trust me, the guitar is securely clamped to my heaviest bench. It is well supported under the key areas where I'm going to be hammering frets in. Now this end of the neck, I can put them on a fret press, which is down the other end of the bench. These are all going to be pressed in this end, but this end I've got to hammer them in. So we have the base or the heel of the guitar padded underneath. We are clamped to the bench in two areas, not too tight. We're not putting any force on the neck, we're not bending anything. It's just held where it is, it's nice and straight. And I have complete access to at least, wow, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 frets. I'm only going to be hammering in up to the 12th fret. So I'm going to be hammering 10 in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to be hammering in 11 frets. I'm not ready to hammer in yet. I'm going to tape up the fingerboard, so because I'm going to be using tight bond, and I'm going to have excess glue. I'm going to have some run out or some squeeze out. We are going to remedy that situation. And one, I have a cloth underneath the guitar. These bits of felt or whatever, padding, can be thrown away later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape up the guitar in certain areas. Just to stop wet getting into places I don't want it to go. And I'm going to have to do this anyway later on. But I want to keep the guitar dry. That's the wrong tape to be using there, so I'm going to stick that bit there like that. Like I said, I'm going to tape all this up. This is a method I've been using for hammering in frets for, well, forever. I am buying actually. I'm going to buy a fretting jig. Quite an expensive piece of kit from GMC. Anytime now. I just couldn't be bothered to wait for that to arrive or whatever. I'm not ordering it yet. But anyway, to show where we're going to go with this. So I'm going to tape up these edges here in case we get any glue run out. We're going to get a little bit of spillage where we don't need it, but we'll have to remedy that. Anyway, so the guitar is flat, sturdy, safe, and the neck is not bent out of shape or anything. So we're all happy there. I'm not going to tape up fingerboard. I'm going to basically just drop glue in the slots, get a Stanley blade, let it drop in there, and I'm going to hammer in the frets quite lightly. Well, as they need to go. Let me just grab the frets. I did cut all of the frets last night. Every single fret is precision cut and fits where it needs to go, from 22 down to number 1. I'm only hammering at this end, and there you go. These will fit beautifully. The only disadvantage of doing it this way, we're binding on this, you can't flare open these slots, so you really have to hammer them straight. And there you go. And these are all going to go in perfectly. Each one is cut to the right size. The tangs inside there, they all fit perfectly. None of them will push out the binding. They'll just sit inside the binding. Each one is just about the right width. And once I've got them tapped in, they're slightly over radius, so when I've got the edges tapped in and we hit the middle, they are going to splay out just a very, very tiny amount. It's going to hold them in really tight.
going to work really well. I don't need to glue these in. I don't use Titebond as an adhesive. I use it as a gap filler. As I tap these in, I'll be wiping off the excess glue. I'll have a bowl of water nearby and a cloth, and I'll probably come and show you a little bit of it shortly. I just wanted to show you the setup. May not look professional, but trust me, it will be a professional job. Okay guys, this is not going to be particularly pretty, but you are going to get an idea of how things work when we're knocking some frets in. And we'll leave it like that. I did tape up fingerboard in the end. I left just a little bit wider than the actual fret size itself. Just need to nip out to the kitchen. Give me 1 second. Like I say, I'm going to be using Titebond as a gap filler, and I've actually got some Titebond on the back of this takeaway pot here, and I have mixed it with a tiny bit of water just to thin it a little bit. It's not going to stop it doing what I need it to do, but it will be easier to work and it'll take a little bit longer to dry, but that's absolutely fine. And it's a matter of getting some glue in the slots like so. I have a bowl of water on the other bench just across the way there, and I'm going to do myself 3 slots worth of glue right here right now. And you can see the glue is only going in the areas where I need it to go. Now I could take a piece of kitchen paper like so, dip it in some water. I'm probably going to use a tea towel for this anyway, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet it, wipe off the excess. Doesn't matter about there being any moisture on there. And I'm going to start tapping the frets in. And all I really need to do is make sure we're lined up right. See, I tapped in the edges and I went across the middle. And once that is in, I'm going to take the caul and I'm going to turn the mallet over. Knock it in with the caul, look at it, say to myself I'm really happy with how that one's gone in, move on to the next one and repeat the process. Edge, edge, you might get them pop out, but they will go in. Again, take the correct caul, check it, make sure you're happy with the way it's seated. Again, it won't hurt to keep knocking the caul. Third one. And just making sure you're right up to the edges. Plastic side to make sure where we need to be. Metal side to tap it home. Caul. Really is no more difficult than that. They are all seated nicely. They are in. We've got no excess glue over there. I will grab myself a fret rocker just to check things as we progress. The middle one's really quite high there. And on that edge, we don't worry about things like that. Just go back and tap them in. You do get this. And that, my friends, is free in. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat the process till I've got these 12 in, and once they're in, or 11 or however many it is, once they're in, we're going to clamp these down, remove the guitar, clamp them down. We're going to do the other half a little bit later on. So you've got an idea of how it works. Really simple, it's not rocket science. I'm going to crack on, get it done, and we'll get a radius clamp over there. That one seems to be sticking up a bit. I'll check that one again. But anyway, there you go.
So we have the first batch of frets in. May not look too fantastic right now, but they will clean up absolutely fine. A little bits of glue on the top. I'm just going to remove, free the guitar, and we're going to clamp this down, or clamp these frets down. We've maintained a pretty decent level across the tops there, so quite happy with that. Any of this will be cleaned up later. Anyway, I'm just going to grab a, I normally grab a radius beam, stick some aluminium on there with a radius beam on top, and we'll clamp that radius beam on there so I can free the guitar right now. Gives me, that's the guitar free. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to remove, I can stand the guitar like so. Look for a 10-inch radius beam. I do believe I've got it out somewhere. There you go, right here. Can leave the sandpaper on, it's not going to be a problem. And there you go, that's good. And I'll just put one clamp on there, will support the guitar underneath. In fact, I'll go right under the heel. If I grab a couple of business cards. Decent clamp. See what kind of height we're going to need. Okay, we're going to need this all the way back. Some business cards under the heel. And this should work. Well, let's say should. It will work. A little bit more under than that. There you go. That's good. Check the radius beam there. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. And just clamp and hold. And there you go. That will hold. I'll leave that there for an hour or two. We'll come back and we'll press the rest of them in. Just a quick update on the 73 Gibson. I've got the first half of the frets in. I've cleaned up the fingerboard, any excess glue that was on there. Just want to show the work there. I could have got the other half in tonight, but you know what, I'm not bothering tonight. I moved on to another job anyway. I've got a job on behind me, quite a big job on an Epiphone Les Paul. So I've decided to leave this one till the morning, but remarkable. I mean, look at these frets. Absolutely gorgeous. It's a miracle that we're able to refret this guitar after the state of the neck when we came in. So it is looking really good, really promising. Look at that. Nice straight neck. And I don't think we're going to need a respray. I'm sure I can just sand down there and just we'll just polish it up afterwards. But yeah, looking at the frets, I have one fret just slightly inside of the binding there. I may have to replace that number 12 there. Didn't notice that, I'm just noticing it right now. But that aside, yeah, I'm going to replace fret 12 there. It's just inside the binding. I didn't get that quite lined up quite right, so no big deal. It's something that I will do and put right tomorrow. But yeah, really pleased with how this is going so far. As I say, with this, it's no rush job. We're taking this time with it. It's a very old guitar. 1973, it's 47 years old, so there you go. It could even be possibly a 71, but I'm still thinking it's a 73. Anyway, I'll remove that fret in the morning and we'll get the rest of them in. Job will be a good one. Same principle as before on the fret press. I've mixed some tight bond with some water. I do have a fret press now. Well, it's an adapted arbor press. I had adapted over at BB Guitars a few years ago by my friend Mr. Eastwood. I've got some tight bond mixed up, a little bit of water in there so it just gets in the cracks easier, or in the slots should I say, not cracks. Cracks makes it sound like there's something wrong. Maybe a little bit thin, we'll see. But yeah, the arbor press, adapted. I could probably do 3 or 4 at a time here. Going to go with 3 for now. You see how much easier that tight one is going in the slots. And As you've already seen, frets are pre-cut. I'm going to grab myself a bit of kitchen towel. I have a bowl of water out of shot. So slightly soapy water, just a little bit of liquid detergent in there. Stuff you wash your dishes with. I'm just going to wet a little bit of kitchen roll. And that's as much as we need. Same again with the fretting hammer. We're just going to tap the edges in. The press is going to do all the work now. This is going to be a lot easier, and you'll see how everything slides nicely. And I'm sure I could have got a little bit more gung-ho. I could have got 4 in here. But let's see how we're going to work. And this is going to slide neatly with the underneck cradle type holding thingamabob. And all we've got to do with this is just get central, line up. I'm just going to bring the press down and we're just going to squeeze in. And that's as difficult as it is. Not difficult at all. A lot easier using the fret press. This Stumac cradle is a little bit too long for my liking. It's putting pressure in areas I don't really want it to be putting pressure, like right under the heel here. And we need to be precise with everything. We don't want to be going more gung-ho and start putting strain on the neck and in places we don't need it. And there we go, there's 3. I will let's use an old tea towel just to dry everything off. Pressing them in should give you a better press. It should definitely seat better. I'm expecting the one that was already in before and the ones that we've just got in are going to be slightly different. We're going to be levelling them anyway. No, that one's still a little bit high, so number 12. It will all come out in the levelling. So I'm just going to hold up. Yeah, as long as it's seated fine, which they are, we're going to be okay. So you see how it works, really simple. I'm going to crack on, get the rest of them in. I need to mix up some more of this glue mixture because I don't think it's going to be enough here. I don't know, it should be. Let's go with 4 this time. So you see how it works. I'm going to crack on, get the rest of these in. Once it's done, I'll clamp it up again, pretty much same as before. Leave it clamped leave it overnight. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll start the rest of the work on the frets. All the frets are in. We're going to move on to edging these frets. By edging, I mean we're going to file these frets right up to the edge of the binding. But there are a few precautions we have to put in place before we do that. And one, understand I'm not doing it here, just loose on a bench. It will be, we'll have the neck held in a vice on the other bench shortly. But I'm just going to do it just to show how I start them off. And what I've done is, I'll explain in a second, is I have reinforced the tape here. There's about 7 or 8 layers here and 7 or 8 layers here coming all up this side of the binding. That's because we're going to be hitting this with a file to file these up to the binding. The good thing about this file, what I'm using, is it has a safe edge here, so it's not going to cut into anything, but we still have the extra layers of tape here just so we don't wear down. And it's really simple now. This is not going to be static. We'll get a little bit of movement, but you see I'm right up to the binding there, but I'm able to come right across the body, not cutting into anything because of the safe edge. And it means I can get right up to the binding with the fret wire, so there's going to be no overhang later. And the only bit I have to do on the bench is this bit above where the body is. Once I get to this bit, I'll do this all on the other bench anyway. And this area, again, this side, safe side of the file down, because I'm going to be angling down slightly. We don't want to cut into the body of the guitar, but we're just removing the edges. And it's probably better if we just hold the file just straight like that, so we don't overlap the binding. So if we do remove anything, we're going to remove a little bit of the binding, but none of the wood from the neck. And again, that is looking really, really good. We are right up to the edge. And that is really, really good. And we have gone a little bit into the binding this side, but that's not a problem. We can always stain that back if we want to make it look vintage. And what I'm going to do then is, I'm going to take my super smooth file, my Swiss file, number 4 cut. Beautiful piece of kit this. And again, with the safe side or non-cutting side down, we're just going to do these edges, and once we stop getting a cut there, but when I bring it up vertical we're not getting any cut at all, and that is really good news because it means we're right up to the binding. I'm just slightly coming over to start off the bevel. And that is beautiful, and now there's nothing hanging over, there's no sharpness. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. I just need to make sure that I've got, there was a flat side and a non-flat side. Flat side here on this one, so I'm going to use the file backwards. Shouldn't need a lot of work. In fact, it doesn't really need any. Slightly angle it. Bring it back to level, and that's it. We are right on the edge of the binding there. That is fantastic. So all this, where the body is done. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to create that bevel a little bit later on, angling it this way, but I'm going to do it all by hand. The actual tool I've got to do it gives you a 35-degree bevel. I do not want that much. I don't want 35 degrees. I want nearer 15. I want my bevel to be almost upright, so it gives us a lot more width. I want my bevel staying inside the edge of the binding. It gives a lot more width to play with on the fret. We get the full width of the fret. But now I've done that edge, I can get over on the vise. You've seen how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go onto the other desk over there, and I'm going to do the rest of them. I'm going to do it all in the vise on the other bench. A couple of little bits I want to do here, like I fill in a couple of cracks next to the binding. But all this area is done. We haven't done the bevel, like I say, but we have done the edging, and there's no sharp bits there now. And what is sharp, we're going to grind off anyway. We're going to smooth these off. So that's how I do that. Like I say, I'm not recommending you just do it loose on a table like this. You really need this end held in a vise so you're not getting any rock anywhere. You keep it steady. So I'm going to move over to the other bench. I'm going to crack on, do the work. It's getting dark now. I'm not going to film it. I've just shown you how I do that anyway. But I'm going to crack on. I'm going to do the edges. I'm going to get the beveling done. Once that's done, we can crack on with the actual leveling and recrowning tomorrow. Another fabulous morning in Fretly manner, and doing the bevels on the guitar. Just checking the binding there. We have gone slightly into the binding, but that's always going to happen. So how do I do the beveling? Well, as I've already shown you, take a file with a safe edge, hold it that way, plenty of tape over here, so if we knock into there we're not going to cut anything. But what I do is when I'm filing the edges anyway, I have my thumb slightly over the end, and I'll show you as I'm filing. As I get to the end,
that's going to lift the file, this thumb is going to lift the file up and over that area anyway. And I'm able to just, because it's a safe edge, no cut on there, I'm just able to file. And you see it's not cutting. Why is it not cutting? Because I've already done it. So I go with the coarse file, do it that way, safe edge to the guitar so we don't knock into or cut anything. And I'll finish off with my number 4 cut Swiss file. Always mention this file, made by Valorb. Fantastic, fantastic piece of kit. There you go. It's a number 4 cut, super smooth, but super sharp. It has one perfectly flat edge by fortune more than design. And safe edge toward the guitar. And again, just across until we cut. And you see, I'm not cutting anymore. I've already done the bevels. They're done. They're done by eye. I don't measure them. I don't aim for any particular angle. I just sight down the guitar, look at it and think, yeah, I'm happy with that. That will do. It's cutting in nicely. The binding, what I'll be doing with the binding is I'll be giving the binding a scrape with a Stanley blade. We'll be taking some of the binding off. I will take some stain to it. We'll probably go with a little bit of, I'll probably get some turmeric mixed with water, and we'll just give a brush over and rub it in, and it'll make it look aged again. But if it stays white, it stays white. It's the way it is. But end of the day, these bevels are beautiful. I've now got to do the other side, so I'm going to flip the guitar over, do exactly the same the other side, and once that's done, we can move again to another bench. We can round these bevels off, and we can get the frets levelled. Exciting times. Cracking on with this now for sure 1971 Gibson Les Paul Custom, and with all the frets in, all the bevels done, we're going to prep for levelling, but not until we've got rid of all the excess glue that's squeezed out next to the fret. So all we're going to do is we're going to take a Stanley blade, get it right in the corner. I've already done this side, and I'm going to come round, sadly in front of the camera, but just to scrape these edges here. I'm not totally in front, so you can see what I'm doing. Just to scrape up any glue residue. You can see as I make a pass, one pass with the blade, any residue that's there is lifting. And in a moment I'm going to turn the guitar around and show you how well we've done here. We've done really, really well. We have carved into the binding slightly, a little bit more on this edge, because the binding was actually carved down that way anyway, so we weren't able to avoid doing that. We're just having a look at the fingerboard and everything here. What a difference. Now we have, we repaired the slots on the fingerboard, if you remember. Repaired the chips, sorry, and it looks fantastic. You would just be thinking, wow, that's amazing. Let me just try and show you the fingerboard as is. Lay it down very gently because we don't want to put any pressure on that because we're not snapping something. So that is down there very, very gently. I'm just going to move some things out of the way, and I'm just going to try and show you the fingerboard. And I think that's as good a view as we're going to get where we are. And look at that. No, you can't see any chips at all. It looks fantastic. Once this is all oiled up, it's going to look amazing. I think you'll agree, made a really, really good job of that. So I'm now preparing to level the frets. And to do that, what we've done is we've got the neck dead straight. We didn't have to touch the truss rod because we left it loose anyway. We're just going to check that we've got the neck as straight as we possibly can. I may stick this on the neck jig. That is a straight neck. We do have a little bit of fall off still down at this end, which I said we wanted anyway, so that's great news. We don't have a problem with that at all. So we have a straight neck, not getting any straighter than that. Fall away is fine from fret 15 down anyway, so that is not a problem. So I can level the frets as they are. Now, problem we did have is this radius was closer to 9.5 than it was to 12. It's probably just over 10 slightly, so I'm going to radius this to 10 inches, which is going to work. It's the best we can do. You know, we're making the best of a bad job there, but it's still going to be well playable,
the frets look fantastic. We do have to round off these little bevels. We're not doing that yet because we're not going to do any of that till there's no point rounding them off and leveling. We're going to do the level, then we're going to round everything off. So for me to get the level done, I am going to put this on the neck jig because it's going to work better, because I can get this neck dead straight and supported underneath rather than just scoot across as we are a bit wobbling about. So it's going on the jig. I'm not doing anything different than that. It's the best way to do it. I think I'm going to set the jig up on this table, on this bench. So give me 10-15 minutes to get that done, and we'll come back and we'll get these frets sorted. And so I did say that I'm going to put the guitar back on the jig to level the frets, and it's exactly what I'm going to do. So I have the jig set up. It was already set up from my last time. Anyway, we are propped on a couple of blocks of wood just so I can get underneath these. And I can get the straps to hold the guitar in under the bench or the jig. Anyway, I'm just going to grab, I'm only going to need one of these today, I think. I'll show you what I mean by these in a second. I may put two on, just one of these straps. And might get away with one because I don't think the guitar's really going to move. Just need to position this. To get where I want to be. There you go. So I'm just going to stick one on for now and see where we are. We're going to go around the waist of the guitar. You know what I mean by waist. We all know that a guitar shape is based on the body of a female. Waist, hip, chest, whatever. Whichever way you want to look at it, or maybe the other way around. I have no idea. How would I know about such things? But you know what I mean when I say waist. So start to tighten up this ratchet strap. Pretty good. If that video doesn't work, cutting back in. I had a client come and pick up a bass rod, forgot about it. So back to where we were. We're strapped in, we're straight according to the, we're not dead straight actually, I just need to knock that back a bit. That is certainly straight enough down there. So what we're going to do now is I need to set this neck dead straight. Now I'm going to make sure that the truss rod is loose. I hope this video's kept your interest up. It's a long video. I don't think it's going to quite be my longest. I think the longest one ever is 3.5 hours. But anyway, back to where we are. So the truss rod is loose anyway. Now what I want to do is I'm not going to force anything, but I'm going to set this neck dead straight. So I've got a little bit of backbone there. I can just see a little gap underneath there. Sorry I'm going to get away camera, but what I've got to do is I've got to get this neck set dead straight for doing the frets. And we're going to force it into straightness. The string tension is going to pull it straight anyway. We do have a little bit of back bow in there. Now I'll just press up there like so, and now that neck is dead straight. I'll tighten that one up like so. I'm going to bring these all underneath. Don't need to use my zero gauges, just need to force this into straightness, which it now is. You see, and now I can level the frets knowing that I've got a straight neck. That's perfect, and we are supported underneath. I'm happy that that's straight. And that really is as difficult as it gets. Setting the neck straight, like so. We'll just use that bar to force the neck into straightness, then we're supporting these all underneath. These bars are not going to move, the neck is not going to move, we are dead straight. I'm now ready to get everything taped up, get the fingerboard taped up, and we're going to take a leveler, or a leveling beam, and we're going to level these frets following the radius along the whole length. I don't necessarily have to show you that, but chances are I will come back and show you a little bit of it. I have levelled the frets off camera, but I still have a little bit more to do, and what I've done is to check that I've got the frets level. I have my precision straight edge from GMI. The bottom edge I absolutely trust. I've checked it against my Veritas. But this edge, I'm not completely trusting. I thought I might see a sort of tiny chink of light just in this area when I tested it against another straight edge. But I do trust the bottom edge, and you probably can't see from where you are, but I guarantee that that straight edge is touching all of the frets down the centre, on the far side, and on the near side. Now, how I level the frets is I went across with my leveling file, which you've all seen before. Precision straight edge, diamond. It's a diamond file. Got everything level. Took all the high spots down. Finished off by going over with a 10-inch radius with some 400 grit on there. But that was only just to check I got the radius pretty close. What I'm going to do is I have a brand new tool. I only had it delivered at the back end of last week, and it's a precision straight edge from Crimson Guitars. I was looking for a new straight edge because I did have a steel one, but it was not straight on one edge, and I sent it away to have it re-skimmed, and it came back and it wasn't satisfactory. I've sent it back again, and rather than keep sending it backwards and forwards to this place, I thought I'll go and buy a new one. I bought this one from Crimson Guitars, and I am going to put my sandpaper on there in a minute. I'm going to show you exactly how I do that, and what I will be doing with this is I will be leveling the frets again using this. Using two different grits of paper. I'll be using 240 grit and 400 grit on each side. 400 grit to basically smooth off and get rid of all the scratches, and then I'll be going across again with the radius block to make sure we have kept that 10-inch radius. So let me get set up on the other bench. In fact, I'm going to show you how I set this up for leveling, and the reason I'm showing this again is I've got two videos on showing how to do this, but I'm changing my methods, and I'll explain more in the next part of the video. So let me skip off, get prepared, and I'll bring you back in. So fret friends, preparing a sanding block for doing the radius or for leveling frets. And I've got this new Crimson Guitars leveling beam, 16 inches long, 2-inch height by 1 inch wide, which is perfect. And this is going to make my job much easier, or my job is going to be made much easier because I've managed to source some emery cloth that is 1 inch wide, like this stuff. And it's not sandpaper, it's emery cloth, and I have some 240 grit and some 400 grit. And I'm going to place one type on one side and one type on another. These edges have been milled perfectly flat. We need to make sure they're grease free. So what I would normally do is I would give them a squirt with something like naphtha. Now in England, we're not able to buy naphtha as far as I'm aware, but we have something that is very, very close. In fact, it is basically naphtha, and that is Zippo lighter fluid. And this is just going to degrease everything. And that's as far as I'm going to go. And I'm just going to give it a wipe. And anything left on there will evaporate. And give me a nice dry, some much come off there, look, nice dry and clean surface. It is aluminium. Aluminium always gives off some kind of filth in some way or another. And those of you that knew my dad will know exactly what I mean, because my dad polished aluminium all his life and he died riddled with cancer because of the aluminium. It is very, very poisonous and horrible. But anyway, to keep it positive. So there you go, look at that. That's just come off the aluminium even though it wasn't dirty. So we've got two clean edges. To affix this gubbins to there, we're going to need some double-sided sticky tape. But before we do that, I'm going to take some masking tape and I'm going to ever so slightly just bend the edge. You can't see what I'm doing. I'll just bend that edge over just so I've got something to grab hold of underneath when I remove it at a later date. So what we're going to do is straight over, make sure we've got enough to go inside. I'd probably, and there you go. How good is that? The reason I put masking tape on is masking tape is a lot easier to remove the double-sided sticky tape. So we're going to now go with double-sided sticky tape. Same again. More or less right just to the edge, flatten, cut. I think that could have gone on a little bit better, but for what we're doing it's going to be absolutely fine. And now I need to remove the top layer or the covering so I can get the emery board on there. And all I'm going to do is just swizzle it round ever so slightly, press this right down and get to peeling this edge. See if we can get it where we'll just leave the sticky side down, which we have done. There you go, and there you go again. We do have a little bump in there. We're going to just scrape that back down so we've got it nice and flat, which we now have. Take that away, and we're going to do exactly the same with the emery cloth. We'll go a little bit over on this because it has a staple in there, so we've got a small bit I don't want. And all we're going to do with the emery cloth is stick that on top of the tape. A little snippety snip there. A little snip here. And we have 400 grit. That's the 400 grit. I remember that 400 grit is on the top, and how I remember that is I'm going to put a little sticker on there just so I know what is where. Where are my little scissors? These are my good scissors. Just so I know. Little sticker on there. I'll take a pen and find one. And I'm going to put 400 there, 240 there. And how good is that? That is 240, that is 400 grit. Just press it in place, and that's great. And we're now going to do the other side, exactly the same again. Just need to fold over this edge, I forgot again, I always forget this. Not always, but a lot. Over and inside. Just gives us something to grab hold on inside the levelling beam later on. Again, fold over and inside. I think you're getting the gist of this now. It is not rocket science, but much easier to peel that off than to peel the double-sided sticky tape off. Same again this side, this, as I say. Press this down firm enough, you should get a good, should just get under here quite nicely. I've never found a fantastic way to do this. Maybe if I had a sharper blade that would work. Let's just see if I can get a grab. Right, I've got a grab on there. There you go, it's beautiful. But you're seeing this in a live situation. There you go, that out of the way, all the gubbins out of the way. Open this roll. Plus, the thing about emery cloth is it's going to last a lot longer than sandpaper does. So this is my 240 grit. There you go, stapling this. See what I mean about staple? I'll get that out. I'll just nip off that bit where those holes are. That's going to make a great difference. There's the twice cut ones. And there you go, and that's the 240 grit side. And that, my friends, is a levelling beam with 400 grit on the top, 240 grit on the base. You can feel that's much more coarse than that. And I now have a levelling beam, which I'm going to take over to the guitar. I'm going to change the camera again, and we're going to go and level the frets proper. I'm keeping the camera back there. With a levelling beam, you've just seen me make 400 grit on the top, 240 on the bottom. I'm just going to level these frets. They're already covered in pen, they're already mainly leveled anyway. I've covered them in marker pen, just a few strokes, following the line of a radius here. So when we get to this end, we're slightly overlapping because we're following the radius. We don't follow the contours of the neck, we just do it in a straight line from the centre line. And we're just looking for a few strokes just to get rid of all of the pen. I will have a look. All of the pen is removed, just except a little bit on this side here. All of the pen is removed, so we know we do have the frets level. I will just whiz across with a fret rocker to show that the frets are level. What I am going to do is, I am going to move the camera. I'm going to bring it over very close to where I'm working. That's why I'm checking these frets. I'm going to bring it close to where I'm working. I'm also going to level again using the 400 grit. Now the 400 grit is going to remove some of those deeper scratches we've just put in with the 240 grit and make them easier to polish up later on. I'm just checking the frets are level. Once I've gone over with 400 grit, I'm going to put pen on the frets again, and then I'm going to go across with a radius beam with sandpaper on it, just to make sure that we have maintained the radius along the whole length of the neck. And I know we have, because I've already checked that as well. I could have done this video a little bit better, but I'm one of these, I shoot the video, I don't edit anything, I just glue the pieces together. So bear with me, I'm going to move the camera and show you a little bit more in depth. About as good as angle as I can get close to the guitar with the constraints and the obstacles I have in the way in this workshop. Being a quite a small workshop with 3 benches in there, sometimes I just have to compromise on where I would like the camera to be. But anyway, there we are, quite pleased with where it is, and it gives you an idea. I was going to give you more of an idea of how levelling actually works. And I am going to look for my marker pen, the one I lost earlier that I've still lost. Done great with that. What have I done with it? Just bear with me a second while I try and find it. Okay, no, I don't know what I've done with it. Let's go and grab another one. We'll go and grab one, doesn't matter anyway. We can use, I was going to use a permanent marker, but I don't have to. So we're going to mark up the tops of the frets. These frets are already level. And you've just seen me go across with the 240 grit. Now I'm going to go across with the 400 grit, which is going to reduce the impact of these deeper scratches. Don't want to be taking off a lot of material, because I've already taken material from the tops of these frets, and we don't want to go too low. Now the good thing about these frets is they are 25% nickel silver, which is the hardest nickel silver fret wire on the planet. I've been using it nearly 2 years now, and every guitar I put it on, the client has loved it. So there you go, over the top. So we are now going to look at the 400 grit, which is on the top of the beam. Turn it over. 400 grit is going to reduce some of these scratches. Shouldn't take too many strokes. And what I was on about following a radius is when we get to this edge, we overlap there because we're following this fret being the widest fret. So we're just, that's how we follow a radius. Otherwise we'd be making it conical if we followed the lines of the neck. There you go, just a few strokes. And again, apart from this edge right here, that is all of the pen removed in just a few strokes, which is what we were looking for. So we know that the frets are now level. That will be my wife texting me, by the way. I'll ignore her for a second or two. We now know that the frets are level, and we're thinking that we have maintained the radius. So to make sure for certain that we have maintained the radius, we will mark up the frets again with some marker pen. Across the tops of all of them. I already know that this is right, because I've already checked the radius earlier, but you just see me level again, so it could have changed a little. But we're going to go across with a radius block just to make sure we've maintained that radius. Now this could originally been a 10 or a 12 inch radius. I found it to be slightly nearer 9.5, so I press the frets in using a 9.5 inch radius core, but I am radiusing the top of the frets to 10 inches. So let me just grab my little radius block. They're pre-loaded with some 400 grit sandpaper, which is this little beauty here. And we're just going to check that the radius has been maintained. So this should just take a few strokes to remove all of the pen. And by this little corner right here, which I'm going to check in a minute, that is all of the pen removed from all of the threads. I would say we have maintained the radius. I'm just going to check that one with the... Yeah, that's fine. So we know we've maintained the radius, we know that the frets are level, so we know the fret job is now a good one. So all we need to do now is we need to re-crown these frets, and that's because we've flattened the tops. We need to bring them to a nice rounded over along its cross section. So what I'm talking about is this way. We're now flat. We need to rebuild that crown going that way because we want the point of contact between the string and the top of the fret to be quite slim. Ideally around about 0.5 millimetre. We're not going to be totally flat on the top, but we're not going to actually touch the tops with the files I'm going to use. We are just going to remove material from the edges to rebuild that crown. And the good thing about today's technology and the tools we have available today is we do have files that enable us to cut the sides and not cut the top. So it's going to be quite easy rebuilding the crown. The gist of the work comes in on refret jobs with the polishing, which takes a lot longer because I will be polishing 8 different ways, using 7 different grits of sandpaper and using some fine steel wool. So we're getting 8 polishers, and I think you'll find 8 times 22 is 176. So when it gets to the polishing, I have 176 frets to polish, which is great fun. It's boring, it makes your arms ache. Well, it doesn't anymore because I do it so often, but anyway. They are the frets, they are all levelled. We know the neck straight, frets are level. We know they're all seated right. So the job is good for us now to re-crown the frets, then move on, once that's done, to the polishing stage. Crowning the frets. I've already explained what that is. The frets going this way are now flat. We've levelled them, we need to rebuild that crown, going this way. We need a minimal point of contact across the top of the fret where the string hits the fret. Ideally we're looking at a black line down the centre of about 0.5 millimetre. It's not an exact science, but you kind of know by eye and feel where you need to be. So I'll be using 2 different files to create that crown. In fact I'll be using 3 different files altogether to finish the whole fret, because I also need to bevel or carve into these beveled edges to take the sharpness away. So I'll show that in a second. So first file we're going to use is a Stumac Z file. I've got a Z file. If I turn it toward you, you'll see there's a long cut close to you and a short cut close to me. I turn it 180 degrees and it's got the short cut next to you, but long cut next to me. It's a diamond file, which means you've got this diamond encrusted flat blade. And what this does is this will not hit the top of the fret, but it will cut each side. It'll cut long on one side, short on the other, turn it again, it'll do the opposite. So it'll just leave a black line down the centre. We'll show how it works. Really easy file to use, a very expensive file, but worth every penny. All we're going to do is we're going to start to rebuild that crown. Turn it 180 degrees. And we just have a thin black line down the centre of the fret. That's a little bit wider than I would like it to be. It's about 0.6 mil. So we're going to clean the file, we're going to go at it again. Turn over. Have a look again, and that looks fantastic. It looks to be about 0.5 millimetre. Clean the file, ready for the next fret. I'm going to move on to my next file, which is a profiling file. Similar sort of thing, except this already has the crown built in. So all this is going to do is going to remove any inconsistencies from the Z file, move any squareness because it was a flat file. And this is going to give us that concave top. It's also still not touched the top of the fret. So we've got a nice rounded fret. Make sure we get the edges done. A beautifully rounded fret there with a slightly flattish top. Very small, and that one is re-crowned. And now what we're going to do is, again, a Stumac file. This is for the ends of the bevels. It has a safe edge on the top, safe edge on the bottom, cut inside, and this is just for rounding over those fret ends, those bevels there. 3 small strokes like so, and that is it. Again, this side, and just over the top, nice and light, and that has removed any sharpness we had there. Once we roll over that with sandpaper later on, we have a perfectly round, nicely beveled and super smooth fret. Just looking at that one again, still a little bit wider on this side, so I'm just going to go across again, finish off. We always clean the file after 1 fret, and that is it. That is 1 fret crowned. What we do then is, because we left a black line on there, we know we've not removed any height, so we know it's still level. There you go, absolutely fantastic. Going to move along to the next one. I'm going to just whiz through this one. I'm probably not going to talk, just so you can see the technique. Beautiful. So we've got 20 more left to do. Going to crack on, get them done. It's going to take me a while. Once they're all done, we'll change the camera angle. I'll bring you back in and I'll show you how we polish the frets. I've now turned the jig 180 degrees because the other way around I could get all the frets done and this far side done, because that far side was over there and the body was this end. But to get to the frets on this side, I've had to turn the guitar around so I can get in here. And now you see why we have the body all taped up, because it is tricky to get these parts done, because we're going to be angling the file down towards the body. And the problem with that is we could dig into the body of the guitar, and we really don't want to do that. So I've got to really take the time here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger behind, because I'm going to go down at that angle, at that area, and I don't want to go any further because I don't want to jab into the guitar body. So just going to go like so, and angle it back, and again I'm not stabbing into my finger, I'm not hurting myself, it's just helping. I've already done the middles and the far side from when I attacked it at the other end, but I can still go this side a bit more if I need it. Hopefully you're going to see the filings and the work being done there. You just have to be a little bit more careful doing this. This is why I've gone and ordered one of the offset files that has got a curved end like a sabre, and you can just go across the top without even having to worry about digging into the guitar. But this is the way I've always done it, so I'm just going to take my time. So I just jabbed the paper there, but there's 6 layers there, so I've jabbed the paper, not the guitar body, and that's why I do it. Fine job of that. Just got to be careful with your angles, that's all. Just concentrate. See, a lot are just ripped into the tape there, but not into the guitar. So again, you've always got to be careful. It's alright ripping into the tape or knocking into the tape. This is why I've actually ordered different files, just so I don't ever have to worry about doing this again. But it certainly doesn't hurt to layer up on your tape when you're doing these sort of jobs. Always pays to be extra careful. I mean, we got away with that one, we didn't jab the guitar at all. But it doesn't hurt to layer up and layer up. You know, if I use a roll of tape doing this, roll of tape's £4. It's better than spending 150 quid getting the guitar resprayed because you've jabbed a hole in it. So there you go. Swap files now. And again, being extra careful this time. A little bit closer there because I'm going at a tighter angle and it's much easier to dab into the body, and I don't want to do that. This file is, it's not got much life left in it, I don't think, but I have ordered new ones from Stumac that do the same job. I like to use this end of a file because it's got less wear, but I can't do it in this situation because of the angle I'm doing these at. It's going to take a little bit, be a little bit slower, take a little bit more time. Even little streams of filings. You probably can't see from how far back you are, but this is where I know I'm removing material and the job's going right. Because there's a stream shot out of material there, of filings. Usually I'm just over the edge of the guitar, so I can actually go a little bit more gung-ho at this one. And we are done. A little bit more. So just a little bit more this side here. And that's it. That is the fret edges. Well, the frets are done. Just do these little edges here. Already been over those edges, so that looks absolutely fine to me. Going to give it a quick brush. One thing I've not completed yet is rolling over the edges with a smaller file. I'll do that in a minute, but what we're going to do right now is we are going to check how level the frets are again. And I'd like to see the whole guitar while I do this, so bear with me. Pretty good. We'll do there. And let's check the frets for level. Now we've still got black lines on top of the frets, so we know we've not removed any height. So all of these frets should be level, and I can guarantee that they are. I don't know how many hours this guitar's had. I don't really count the hours. When I'm doing big projects like this, I just have a price in mind. I gave Dave the quote. I told him what I wanted. And that's what I've stuck to. A lot of time's gone into this project. Still not done yet. Still got the fret polishing to do. Once that's done, I've got to sand the binding down the edges. I've got to restain the binding. I've got to plug the 2 strap pin holes. And I've got to cut and fit a nut. Once that's done, we've got to string it, set it up, test the electrics, blah blah blah. So still a lot of work to be done, but there you are. The frets on our level. They're beveled, they're edged, they are recrowned. One thing I need to do, I've already showed a little bit of it before, is I need to roll the edges of the frets. These 2 were done. Just roll the edges with a safe edge file. I will also sand over these with a couple of grits of sandpaper. Just 3 light strokes, like so. I'll do this side, then I'll turn the guitar around and I'll do the other side. Just take the sharpness off the edges of these frets, off the beveled edges. I'll be a little bit more careful when I'm going over the body, where the neck meets the body, should I say. Just about 3 strokes, it's nice and easy. Like I say, a little bit more tricky when I'm working over the body area. I'll probably go with 5 strokes. So here we are, we're working over the body, so I'm just going to go backwards and forwards on this file. So take my time with these. A little bit more work. Not much of a bevel at this end at all, but I like it like that. You've got more fret to play with, so you're not going to slip off the edges. So that's that side done. Again, take the clamps off the guitar, turn the jig round, go across, do this side. Once that's done, we can move on to the polishing. Polishing the frets. I'm going to go across with 7 different grits of sandpaper. 6 grits I have here, going through grits 600 through to 2000. So you've got 600, 800, 1000, 1200, 1500 and 2000. But before I do, I'm going to go with some 400 grit, just to remove the main scratches on the top where we've left that nice thin line. And this will make, this is not really polishing, this is just removing the scratches across the top. Now you notice I am only polishing going that way because we put all the scratches in that way. So I'm only going to polish this way. I don't need to round the frets off because they are rounded because of the files I used. So this just removes the worst of the scratches and starts everything off nicely for the polishing phase. So there you go, that's the scratches off there. It's going to take me a while this, because I'm going through 7 grits of paper and I'm going through, I've also got the steel wool I'm going to be finishing off with. So we've got 8 times 22, which we believe is 176 polishes. It's going to take me a while to get all that done. You notice I'm wearing an adapted glove. Cut the thumb out of these 2 fingers because I only use these 2 fingers to polish. The reason I do that is this is aluminium, got aluminium oxide in it, and aluminium is very poisonous. So I've done the gloves. Anyway, I'm going to crack on, get these done. It's going to take me a couple of hours to do it properly. I will take some medium coarse paper and roll over these edges before I before I polish with the grits I'm going to go through. But these frets are going to be nicely shiny, smooth, glass-like, no sharp edges, and the guitar will be a dream to play. So I'm going to crack on, get these done. I'll show you the results in a while. So exciting, we're getting right towards the end of this guitar that's been a real big project, and I've just finished polishing the frets. Been through with 7 grits of sandpaper and just finished off with the finest grade steel wool, and these look absolutely fantastic. Look at that, they are glass-like and beautiful. Maybe with the light you don't quite get it, but trust me, these are amazing. So I'm going to leave the tape on because there's other things I've got to do. One, I've got to carve and fit a knot. I've got to carve the, let me just move the camera ever so slightly. I can't zoom out because I'm right up close. But where the knot is here, I've got to recarve this nut slot ever so slightly because we do have an uneven base. I've got a blank bone nut which I've still yet to carve. I've carved this bigger than it needs to be. That was my rough outline. There will be carved, all this will be carved out. Everything you see there, because we were putting something there. We've still got to make it thinner anyway. We've got this width this way, which is a tiny bit wider than it needs to be. So I've got plenty of carving to do on that. I've got to sand this side as well, sand all this pen off. Got to make it thinner to fit, but we want a nice flat shelf in there. The old nut had just, well, it had it. It was, I mean, I was surprised I got it out clean, but I did. But I need to clean up all this area to get the knot in there. But the frets are beautiful. Really, really pleased. I mean, remember when this guitar came in, it wasn't a guitar, it was just a piece of scrap wood that needed a lot of work. So doing really well, really pleased with how it's gone. I'm going to clean all this area up. I'm going to slightly carve the nut. That's going to be the next major job, or the last, well, it's not a major job, but the last 2 jobs I've really got to do on this is plug the strap pin holes and re-drill and fit the nut. Once that's done, it's pretty much plain sailing right to the end. Good morning friends, we are 4:40 AM. I'm not due at work at Royal Mail till 8 o'clock, so I'm working on guitars. And I've got the camera in a very strange position today, and that's because I want to show you the vise and the nut area of the guitar to show you how I carve and work a knot. And there's the knot I pre-cut a couple of weeks ago. And what I'll be doing is I'll be shaping it on this file, placing a vise, and I'll be dry fitting it to the guitar just to see where we are. And we've got a super fit that way, but what I need to do is I still need to shape a little bit, and it's a little bit wide. So all I'm going to do is, using a file and a vise, is just shape it. And I'm just going to just keep checking it in the guitar for width. A little bit over where we need to be, but not too much. That's pretty good. But this is how I work it. I think we're pretty much there with that. This will be final shaping. Final shaping will be done with a smoother file. Maybe I can get some sandpaper on there. Just wanted to show how I work. Yeah, like I said, it's 4:40 AM. Very early. But that knot is looking perfect. So I know you can't really see much from where you are, but that is fitting beautifully that way. I still need to carve quite a bit off the top, but dry fit wise, that is fantastic. Now I'm going to remove some off the top just to shape it. We are about 1.5 mm, maybe even 2 mm too high. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to angle it slightly back so we create that carve going towards the string trees. Not string trees, the tuners. But again, could do the main shaping while it's in the guitar. I've got a cradle movement going on, like a swishing up and down movement just to shape the top of the knot. That's looking pretty good. It's a very coarse file, this one. That's looking pretty nice. Okay, so, wow, still need a lot to remove off the top, so I'm going to crack on with that. It's at least 1 millimetre too high, so I'm going to remove some more material. And what I'm going to do then is when I've got it dry fitted, I'm happy with it, I'm going to polish it up with some fine sandpaper. And I'm going to glue it in. I'm going to glue it in using epoxy so we get a nice, good bond in there, because the nut slot on the guitar is a little bit, it's not perfectly straight, it's old, it's having not removed more than once before. So get some epoxy in there and we'll get it seated really nicely. I have the nut cut and shaped how I want it to fit in the guitar. I've taped up just around the nut area underneath each side and by the on each side as well, and dry fit the knot. And that looks fantastic. Got a beautiful fit, so I'm going to mix up a little bit of epoxy. Unfortunately I only have a 30-minute stuff, I don't have a 5-minute stuff. That's okay, I've got time. There's 1 part hardener. 1 part resin, half and half. Probably a little bit more resin there than hardener, that's okay. It's important not to touch these two. So I'm just going to put another little squirt. Like so, there you go, that's fine. I'm just going to give this a little mix. And I'm going to put more in there than I need. And squeeze it, and we're going to get some squeeze out, and that's fine. Things there is going to be a slight gap. It needs filling because the nut slot was not cut fantastically before. The last nut wasn't in right. So I'm going to put much more in there than I need. And I'm just going to go and grab the tissue for the squeeze out. We're all going to get squeezed out, definitely. That's fantastic. Quite a bit of squeeze out, and that's great. It's what we want. It's what we want to see. I'm not going to clamp this. I'm just going to let the epoxy set. And that, my friends, is the nut set. These little applicators I made from, got quite a few of these, better shape than this, most of them. Bit of takeaway food carton. Yeah, but there you go. The knot is in.
I'm happy with how it's seated. Both sides, that's beautiful. We are flush to the edges of the guitar. I slightly rounded over this back edge, but I've still got quite a bit more shaping to do. Little jobs you I don't always film. I think it's the first time I've filmed this part of the job. There's lots and lots of stuff you do on a guitar that doesn't get seen, doesn't make a video. Like polishing these edges of the bevels and stuff. But yeah, great project. I think this is going to be my longest video today. I think we're already over 3.5 hours. I think my last one, longest one I ever did, was 3.5 hours long. I don't remember entirely what guitar it was. It could have been a Warwick bass, or it could have been a friend's Nashville Telecaster. But this is definitely going to be the longest video. Yeah, good stuff. I'm going to let that set now. I'm going to go and find something else to do for 30-40 minutes while I wait for that to set. Another small job I've done off camera is to reinforce some of these screws. Now, quite a few of them were loose, so I've removed the screws and I've inserted some matchstork in the holes nice and tight, and I've replugged, well basically I've replugged the holes, and which gives us a new surface to screw these screws into. So these tuners are now all nice and firm. This one was bent a lot, I think I've already shown earlier, but I've straightened this one. And now we're going to move on to the electrics now. This three-way it's terrible the way it's been wired. It's been all bodged up, and what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to rewire all of this. Problem here is I don't have enough wire on them, I don't have any more to put through. So I can either remove this wire completely, or just redo these 3 wires from the 2 pots and wherever else to go. Just find out where it's right to back and redo this from scratch, or I can try and get an extension on there. I'm probably going to be looking at, see that one snapped off as well, look. There you go, it's just all fell to bits. So that's made the choice for me, I think. I think I might just try and get a bit of extension on there and get this wired nice and neat. I'll undo this one as well, and I'm going to redo this part. It's not going to take me too long. It's a little bit annoying, a little bit fiddly, so I'm going to crack on with that. So I'm going to show what I'm doing. I've pulled the neck pickup wire back through out of this cavity because it's just not long enough, and what I've done is I've stripped this back, the outer core, which is for the earth connection, which I'll reconnect later, and I've added an extra piece of black wire, cloth wire, to the connection there. You can see that, and we're just going to, now if I had a flame I'd be able to do this a lot easier, but I don't have a flame to hand. I do have a lighter somewhere, but I don't know where it's gone. I don't smoke or anything, so not anymore. So I'm just going to use the soldering iron to shrink this shrink wrap, and it should shrink enough. And now we have an extended piece of wire, and I'm going to do the same to the other side. And hopefully I can thread it back through nicely. Usually it means I've got to take pickups out again, but that is a nice extended wire now for the, this is the neck. There we go, so the pickup selector on the neck area. I've also got to clean up all of this because it's all really messy. If I can clean that and repair it, I will do. I've got to get all this solder out, all this out, hopefully not bend these things too much, and get all that solder out, and we can reuse that. If not, we're going to have to stick a new one in there. And I'm going to, I think I might be okay with this wire, and I'm certainly going to be okay with the wire coming from the jack. You can't see it. Bear with me a second. I'll just move the camera. Something like this. This is a wire from the jack which I've stripped back. I will insulate this part. I'll add an extension to that, and eventually the braid on this one, the braid on here, and this will all connect and go to the earth connection at this end of this. It'll all be shielded off and nice and neat. So I'm going to crack on. Well, I'm going to carry on with that, get all that nice and
show you the results shortly. So this section completed, I've extended the neck wire, the bridge wire and the earth is wrapped round the 2 braided coil ones. I'm going to slip some shrink wrap tubing on there. I'm going to do the same with this one, put a little extension on there with a little bit of the earth wire. We're going to use some nice thick, I do believe it's, is it 22 AWG wire I always use for grounding. And we're going to put a little bit, might not even need any on there, but we're certainly going to need some shrink wrap on there. But I'm thinking of just getting all this together, get these 2 together, because that's going to go that end. And we may actually be alright with that, just put a little bit of shrink wrap tubing on there and I think we're going to be okay. But yeah, these are much longer than they need to be. It means I can route some of the wire back into the body if I need to, and just pull it back that way. So I've got plenty there, so crack on, get it done.
Just wanted to get this on camera before I seal the back up, and hopefully you get enough light at that side of the room. But the electrics, freeway switch is all done, lovely and neat. Now I extended the wires, cleaned everything up, and the other wire end, the pots and everything are good anyway. Given everything a squirt of switch cleaner, so the pots all function correctly without any scratching. Just a lot better in there. It was a mess where the freeway was, but that's all good now. So the guitar is starting to look the part. As you can see, fretwork's amazing, neck is straight. I'm keeping all the old hardware and pickups. Going to put some new screws in the pickup ring. I've ordered them. I've ordered some new screws also for the pickup height. They will hopefully arrive in the week, but I can seal all the back up now, get the covers on there and get some strings on, get the nut cut, give it a test run, see what I think, just check the setup and just wait for the other bits to arrive so we can get it all finished off. I will also be trying to stain the binding at the edges, trying to age that a little bit. I've got a couple of ways I can possibly do that, so something else I'm going to look at in the week. And really that's about it for today. Back later. The next job I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be shaping some dowel to fit and plug the strap pin holes, one there and one there. And this one's really deep and it's almost conical, so it's a too fat a screw in there. So how I'm going to shape these is I'm going to do exactly the same as I did on a job, a Les Paul I did a few weeks ago, and I'm going to basically stick this in a drill and set the drill on auto in a vise, and I'm going to shape it with the I'm going to get a file on there or some sandpaper, and I'm going to shape it to the right length and we're going to glue it in. Basically we're going to plug each hole. I've got 2 to do. I've took the measurements. One is going to be 3 centimetres long by 3 mil wide, going into a slight conical shape for this end, and on the other end it needs to be 2.2 millimetres, which is 22 mil by 4 mil wide. So a little bit of work to do. Like I say, just a regular drill, which I will get out over here. Regular drill. We'll just open up the chuck or jaws. We'll just place the wood in there. It doesn't matter how tight I go with this, as long as it holds in. As long as that's pretty secure. And there you go, and that is pretty simple. And all I need to do is get a file on there and let the file do the work. I'll stand this in a vise, in my bench vise over there. I'll just check the length of that. Yeah, I've got plenty on there, that's fantastic. So it shouldn't take me too long. I'll come back, show you the results so we can get everything plugged. I will not be matching any paintwork, we'll just be getting it pretty flush, just slightly less than flush, so we've got something to screw into, and once we get the strap pins on there, you're not going to see anything anyway. Very exciting. Now we're getting right toward the end of where we need to be with this guitar. As shown, the electrics are all done and in, and overnight I've plugged the holes for tuning for the strap pins. One there, dowel right up to the edge. They stained it red, not where it mattered, because you're not going to see that anyway. That's one end, and this end here, again the same. Lovely flush on this end. I did drop some epoxy in there as well. I stained that with some red dye. Dropped some epoxy in there. Very, very slightly proud of the surface. That's going to be fine. But yeah, really pleased. You're not going to see any of this once it's done. So we're right at right at the business end of where we need to be. I am thinking I may have cut that nut a little bit too low. If that is the case, I'll oik it out, put another one in, cut another one. It's right on the cusp of how low it ought to be. I am, however, going to cut it and put some strings on there just to find out. One other thing I'm waiting for is new screws for the pickup rings and for the pickups themselves. It's really difficult to source the right screws for these, because these are like about a 2.4, 2.5 mil thread. I do believe they've got a really weird measurement, 4-32 or something. It's something to do with the pitch and what have you. But they're not a metric screw, they are an imperial size. So I've got those on order. But yeah, really good. Particularly pleased with what I did in this cavity here to tidy everything up. That cavity is nice anyway. Check the electrics are all working fine. One other thing, like I say, I've got to do, try and stain this binding on this side where it's now all white, where it once was a creamy yellow. But if I can't do that, it's no big deal. You know, end of the day, really nice. Still got that little tiny bit of edging to do where the binding meets the neck. You can hardly feel it, but you know it's there. I am going to sand it down with some fine grit. One other slight problem, you can ever so slightly feel the edges of these frets, and that is because the binding, where it's normally flat, actually where it meets the rosewood, it actually starts to drop, and then it drops again. So it sort of curls over, and to get the frets right round, you do have to bend the frets over. So we have a very, I mean, it's not, you can't see it with the naked eye, but it kind of is there. You kind of just, it's not sharp. When I do that, you can't feel it at all. It's only when you angle your hand over, you can just slightly feel it. That will go with playing, and as you get used to the neck. But come on, this was ready for the dumpster when it came in, and look at it now. It's a wonderful guitar again. Particularly the more I look at these frets, I don't look at them closely, but looking at them right now, yeah, I'm proud of what I've done there. That's a beautiful fret job. So anyway, I'm going to drill some holes, get the strap pins in. I do believe there are some locking strap pins in the box, in the case, and then I'm going to put the knobs back on the pots and I'm going to wait for the screws to arrive. But this will be going back to its owner at the weekend. We are Monday the 7th of December, year of our Lord 2020. I did say I'd get it done by the 12th of December. All being well, if the parts I need arrive, they should arrive by the end of this week. But anyway, back with an update whenever. Just about coming to the end of our journey with this guitar, and off camera I've already cut the nut slots to the right depth above the first fret. Just as a quick reminder, round about 0.2 millimeters this side, about 0.3 millimeters this side. That's a gap from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string each side. Closer on the treble than the bass, because the bass strings vibrate more. Slightly angled the grooves. One thing I've got to do now is, I've cut this, I've got a set of 1046 strings on there, but he wants it setting up with 942s, but I've actually cut the strings for a set of 1046s, meaning that the 942s are going to sit in there nice, but if he does want to upgrade to fatter strings later, he can do without a problem. So very close to where we need to be with completing this job. It's been a huge project, this one, but I'm quite pleased we are getting towards the end of where we need to be. This will be going out, Dave will be collecting it tomorrow.
which will be a Saturday. We are Friday the 18th of December, year of our Lord 2020. Just going to change the strings over. Once that's done, I'm going to stretch them in, get it in tune, get the truss rod cover on, and we can finalise this mega video. Okay, friends, we are all done, and what a massive challenge this guitar was right from day one. And contrary to anything else that was said prior to this moment in the video, we did eventually find out that it actually is a 1973, which is kind of what I always knew deep down inside, it being a 1973 serial number. But what a guitar, and I'm sure you'll agree it looks absolutely fantastic. But it has had a lot of work, and it's needed a lot of work to get it right. And the biggest problem was the neck. When it came in, it was twisted quite severely this way down. We managed to get it straight. I'm just going to have a look at it. That's wonderful. The fact that we've got it straight, it is remarkable. It took me a few goes, a few different ways to do it, and we had some mistakes on the way. When I first got it right, it wasn't quite right. I'd overbent it, so we took it back. I bent it again, and the fingerboard slipped off the neck itself. So I had to go and do it again. There's various methods I tried to get enough heat in there, but we did get it right in the end. We even got it that good, right? We've not had to spray the neck again, which has saved 200 quid. You can feel where the neck joins the binding down there, but where it didn't slip down this end, you can also feel it as well. So over years, the fingerboard has shrunk. If you do remember, the frets in there were atrocious. They were basically it was a fretless wonder, which basically are flat frets. The binding had been cut off, but the frets were only up to the edge of the binding, which again was really quite bad. It had a refret before I touched it, a very bad refret. The fingerboard was severely chipped, so I've had to re-radius the fingerboard, fix all the chips, which I have done. It has had a lot of work. Other things I've done is I've redone the electrics. We've put a new bone nut on there. I've also filled and replaced or repaired the strap pin holes in both ends. Trying to think if there's anything else that's been done. It's had a full fret treatment, so that's new fret wire. We went with Sinton's medium jumbo, 25% nickel silver, which is the hardest nickel silver fret wire on the planet. I've flowed some more solder over the electrics. I've redone the three-way. I had to extend some wires in there. Checked all the wiring controls here. Everything seems to work fine. I don't think the pickups are microphonic like we thought they were. Sounds fine to me. And I've set it up and put on a new bone nut, hand carved by me. I think you'll agree that that looks fantastic as well. And that's it. I think that's covered everything I have done. So we've brought to life a guitar that, believe it or not, no one else will touch this guitar. No one was interested in trying to fix this twist in the neck. As soon as a guy contacted me, I says, well, I'll have a go and see how we are and see how we go. But I will have a go with it. No one else will touch it. So basically, he bought a dead guitar down to me. The guitar was scrap wood. It wasn't worth anything, you know, and no one would touch it. But now, I know it's insured for about 5,000 quid. Value-wise, I'd probably value it at about 3,000 myself. I don't know. One thing that has happened that I couldn't avoid, and that was losing the bojo from the edge of the binding, because I had to scrape the binding and sand it to bring it in line with the neck, because the last refret was that bad, and the binding has been cut two ways. It's been cut, if that's the edge of the binding, it's also been cut on the top that way, then the neck goes that way. So there's 1, 2, 3 angles, and it also meant I had to slightly bevel the fret ends just over a little bit more. You can't feel the frets at all playing like that, but if you really get your fingers into there, you'll feel what seems to be like sharp edges. Could not be avoided, but it's not going to affect you when you play the guitar. End of the day, there has to be some sort of compromise with what we can do, because otherwise I'd have had to take my frets right inside the edge of the binding. So it is done. Something else I did as well, I repaired one of these tuners, don't remember which one, it was severely bent. It is now straight. I don't particularly like these tuners that well, they're not that smooth, but everything works. The truss rod works, the tuners work, the new nut looks fantastic on there. The guitar looks great, it feels great, and it plays great, and it sounds great. So what more do you want? The remit on this was to straighten the neck, refret it, and get it playable. The cosmetic side of it was never an issue. It was just, that was what was asked of me, just get it playable so the guy can gig with it. Well, I'll tell you what, you can certainly gig with this. It looks fantastic, it is a head turner. People are going to question this guitar, they're going to want to know about it, and there you go. And it is worth at least £3,000 of anyone's money. So I'm really quite pleased with how it's come out, but that is it, it is finished. David is coming to collect it tomorrow. I'm probably going to be at work. But my wife is going to pass it over to him. What a lovely guitar. It's been a pleasure to work on. It's been a headache. It's been difficult at times. And it's been an expensive job when all said and done. But end of the day, £600 I charged him for this. It has had, I don't know how many hours it's had. It's had 60 hours at least. So I've been working for a tenner an hour. If that, well, it's not all money for me anyway. There's other part, the things I had to buy parts and blah, 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 blah. I've had to buy tools. So not a money maker for me, but that's not the issue. That is not a problem. It's all about getting the guitar back to its owner and the owner being happy with the guitar when he gets it back. So it's been a great project, but I'm glad it's done. I'll be glad when Dave gets it back, and I hope Dave is happy with it. So that is it. It's the last major job I'm doing before Christmas. We are Friday the 18th of December, year of our Lord 2020 today. This one's done. I've got a couple of little jobs to do before Christmas, but I'm taking nothing else on until January. But that is it. This project is finished. I'm glad it's finished. I hope Dave's happy with it. And there's one thing left for me to do before I go, and that is to remind you of my website, which is facebook.com/ng17. That's facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. I am Victor. I am your fret friend. Until next time, as always, God bless you. Be good to each other. And before I see you in the next one, I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Wish you a happy and prosperous New Year. Certainly hope we have a better year than 2020. Until next time, that's it.